council meeting for City of Medical Lake today, July 7, 2026. Let's rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Seated. Include roll call. Councilmember Richard.
Present.
Councilmember Ray Abbott.
Present.
Councilmember Spears.
Present.
Councilmember Wilbur.
Present.
Councilmember Harville.
Here.
We have two requests to be excused. Councilmember Olson is on vacation. I'm going to motion to excuse Councilmember Olson.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Secondly, Councilmember Kennedy is also asked to be excused, also on vacation for today. Entertain the motion to excuse Councilmember Kennedy.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Can you make us come with him next time?
It'll take a full vote of the council to require it to be up here, and we might have to delay all kinds of things, but it could happen, I suppose. Thank you so much. Looking for approval of the agenda, I do have one and a couple notes, and then also in addition. So first addition would be under number 8, public hearing, the staff report related, and it's in front of you, council.
Yes.
And that's related to the transportation. Looking for the title here. The periodic update ordinance and the first reading ordinance 1149 concerning transportation. And so that packet is in front of you and asking to have that put in as page 117, the whole packet. And then the other changes would be starting with the resolutions, the page numbering got off. And so we would, the page numbers will be changed as follows. 10A, page number starts on 139, 10B starts on page 144. 10C starts on page 148. Page D starts on page 151. Resolution section starts on page 159. F starts on page 176. And then under ordinances 11B, that page number is instead of 196 is page 181. And I'll reiterate that as we go through the packet, but just so you know that we have some staff out with some family matters and the other pages off. So apologize for that, but would entertain a motion to accept the agenda as presented. Are there any other changes or additions before we make that motion? I thank the council.
Move to approve as amended. Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you for that amendment. And as I said, we'll walk through that as we go forward, and then the full minutes will be on the council or on the website after. So thank you. This is now opportunity for announcements, proclamation of interested citizen comments. We do have 2 here. And then we'll take those in person, and then I'll call for anyone online who may have a comment. Art Colbert, go ahead and come forward, say your name and your residence, and we'll have 3 minutes, please.
Yeah, Art Coolibert, 405 Fellows. And on Facebook, there's been a lot of chatter on the fireworks. So I thought I would come down and put my 2 cents in. Late on the 2nd, I turned on my phone and saw that there had been the ban put in. And my first thought was that's too late and it won't matter. I was concerned about the weather because I host a backyard birthday party and I have a couple tents I put up. So I was wondering if I would have to stake them down for the wind. So I checked the weather app for the 4th and it said 9 knots. And said, well, the weather, I don't always believe the weather. So I kept checking it. On the 3rd, I checked it. It still said 9 knots. And then on the 4th, pretty much the same. I think the ban may have been received better if Airway Heights had joined in. One of the problems a couple of years ago, we did a ban, and about half the people didn't blast off. The other half basically randomly fired them off during the rest of the year. Thinking about it, I would not want to have a lot of fireworks sitting in my garage for a full 12 months. So one option, if we do a ban in the future, to have an option, for instance, I believe the state allows New Year's. Most of the world fires off fireworks on New Year's. So we could add that to the ordinance as possibly only as a makeup time. But one of my concerns would be, say that you got a bunch of fireworks in your garage and you got a 12-year-old, he goes out there, finds it, and he decides to have a fireworks display. So that would be unsupervised, very dangerous. So, you're not going to stop people from buying fireworks, and you're not going to stop people from using them, no matter what we have in the ordinance. For years, I've had people complain about, I can't think of just outside of town, some of the best fireworks goes off over Freeman Drive. They have some of the best fireworks shows. They're not in the city. They've never been legal. I'm old enough to remember when people honored the speed limits. That's one of the laws that is kind of ignored. And I think fireworks are going to be in that same category. No matter what we do, they're going to go off.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Appreciate that. Jeff, is it Estes?
Estes, yes.
Come forward. Ben, let us know your residency, and you give us your address, or just say Medical Lake resident. And
my name is Jeff Estes. I'm at 1104 Olson Hill Court here in Medical Lake. I came up here to speak on the same subject as Mr. Coolbert. My primary concern was with the sales post banning of the fireworks. From my understanding, there's an ordinance in place that still allows the businesses to sell, even though the fire chief has made the decision to ban them for the season. Am I correct on that?
so it's kind of the other way around. The correction is that we did not have an ordinance that allowed for a ban when the fireworks are banned. So government could not impede with commerce. We learned that in 25. Council has since passed a law just recently. State law says 1 year before that could take effect. So next year, if there were a ban, anytime in the future, sales would also be banned, because it does send a mixed message. So we have addressed that, but
Okay, I seem to be a little bit behind on the information. I was just looking to hear that you guys have done first and second read on 1148. Is that addressing the same subject, I'm assuming?
1148, it must be, because it was just passed recently. I think the last meeting in June.
Okay. Okay. My other concern was what kind of enforcement efforts took place after the ban was issued. I didn't see any deputies. If you guys were in town, you probably know there was quite a lot of stuff going on. I stopped by the fire station. They said they had appropriately upstaffed for the day. Asked if there was going to be neighborhood patrols, which is something we've kind of traditionally done in the past, and they said unfortunately they weren't going to be doing those this year. But my main concern was the sales after the ban. If that's already been addressed, then we'll give you back
I
your
will
time.
give you, just to answer the other question, because it's an easy question, is that we did have extra patrol. And they were taking an educational stance. And so I did see some folks were approached, but there was, it's a civil infraction. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but basically like a speeding ticket. If I see you do it, I can cite you. Otherwise, I can pull you over and say, somebody saw you speeding, you should really slow down. It's tough to enforce
Understood.
in infractions. So, but yeah, we're all aware that maybe something
Okay.
more needs to happen.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Appreciate you taking the time to come in.
Well, thanks, Jeff.
And thank you, Mr. Fulber, for taking the time to come in. Online then,
Lonnie and
pardon me.
we have one hand.
Okay, I see a hand for Lonnie Henderson. If you'll go ahead and introduce yourself, please, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
Sorry, bear with me.
Okay, I think I'm live now, right?
Just a moment, Lonnie. We can't quite hear you very well. If we can get the volume up a bit. One moment. Maybe it was from the soundboard. And we go ahead and try it again, Miss Henderson.
Hello, 1, 2, 3, 4.
A little bit better. At least
Okay.
the back of the room can hear you, so that's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to comment on all the chatter that was going on the different Facebook pages and how disrespectful the attitudes were against the decision makers, the fire chief and his staff, and our city leaders. The disrespect and disregard to our authority that was brought out, and it was so inconsiderate of the for them to be, I'd say, hateful and hostile to your own community, and inconsiderate to the next door neighbors who might be elderly, who might be veterans, and for our pets that we have. I mean, there was a total disregard to any kind of civility, in my opinion, and I just wanted to express that. Lonnie Henderson, 611 Lad, Medical Aid. Thank you.
Thank you. I see we have another hand up, Diane Nichols. Maybe you look a little like maybe you're frozen or we are, I'm not sure.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Diane Nichols, Medical Lake resident. I too have some comments about the fireworks. First, I wish to publicly thank Fire Chief Rohrbach and our firefighters for the excellent work that they do. I am embarrassed for the city that our citizens responded to the chief's fireworks ban with such vehement defiance and some really deplorable comments and accusations on Facebook. With such a serious issue as the possibility of a catastrophic fire, I think the demonstration this last weekend should give the mayor and council pause regarding our current code. Perhaps it's time to start putting some limitations on fireworks. At the very least, I think the days of sale should be reduced to coordinate and correspond and support any future ban with the chief. My second comment, a little lighter vein, I would like to ask the council to amend our code to put some restrictions on the numbers of chickens that people can own and prohibit roosters. We used to have this in our code. I'm not sure what happened to it. Some residences with small yards have anywhere from 11 to 13 chickens, and the stench is pretty overpowering. One rooster in close proximity to me, he was very cute when he was young and learning to crow, but now he has found his voice and he's become very annoying. He seems to want to keep us all going all day and all night. Spokane County allows for 1 chicken per 1,000 square feet of lot area and prohibits roosters. Airway Heights has a maximum of 4 chickens with a minimum 6,000 square foot lot and no roosters. So I think it's time for Medical Lake to add this to our code for the health and safety of the community. And third, in regard to the renewal of the lease of Martinez Rail that's on the agenda tonight, I'm opposed. The city, I really feel, is an embarrassment to this, or the site, I'm sorry, is really an embarrassment to the city. With it being a city-owned building, I had hoped there would be more control over what happens there. This business is in a residential area. It has a very trashy look and has been that way for several months, which is an indication to me that this lease should not be extended. If this building were in the downtown business corridor, notices would have been issued and fines administered, and rightfully so. Just because it's on Brooks Road is no reason for this type of appearance to be tolerated, especially in a city-owned building. So I'm in opposition to renewal of that lease. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you for your comments. We appreciate it. Anyone else online or in the room by the raising of your hand would like to comment at this time? You'll have another opportunity at the end. We give 2 opportunities in every meeting. So if something piques your interest along the way, you can let us know. Thank you. So we will now move on to announcements, proclamations, and special presentations. I do not have anything noted. So we will move on to reports, committee reports, and council comments. Two things I would like to hear from council. This is your opportunity, one, to tell us what you've been up to the last couple of weeks, if you're so inclined and have interesting things you'd like us to know. But this would be your opportunity also to, and I'm asking you to give us your thoughts and your comments on the civil disobedience that happened on the 4th of July. Councilmember Pritchard.
Yeah, just a real quick thing on to the 29th. I was invited to the Washington Water Futures. It's kind of related. So there was, since it's another drought year, the governor has asked the ecology to go to different areas of Washington and figure out what can be done as far as like storage of water, injecting it back in aquifers, things like that. And the most important thing that I can think of right now they brought up is that they think in the next 10 years, at least 7 to 8 of them will be drought years. So that's not good for groundwater, which I like a lot, but it also is not good for fireworks. So that takes us into what you asked me to say. Yeah, it was kind of crazy. I was very disappointed. It seemed unsafe. People started at 9 o'clock in the morning and went pretty much all day. They started the second, even after that wonderful Lincoln Lake event. I was up until about 11:30, 12 o'clock with my neighbors shooting off just nonstop 10-minute sections of fireworks. I mean, it was almost more than the city even put out. I've heard reports of like $4,000 being spent on small fires being started, but put out by fire hoses. And that's just unsafe and extremely disrespectful. So I would say stop sales, stop usage, and then put a hefty fine and make it a misdemeanor. And then have a nice city event on the 4th of July, potentially, with a band and hot dogs. That would be my opinion.
I appreciate your comments. Councilmember Ray Abbott.
Don't have a committee comment, but I did ask somebody on the 2nd, late, almost midnight, to cease lighting off bombs that I thought were going off in my yard. And they did. I don't think that we should have said anything about the 3rd. I think it confused people. If we had just said they're banned, because people thought they were banned until the 3rd, which is the case on the people that I spoke to. But even though there was fireworks going off all around my house, they did stop at 11. So.
Thank you. Councilmember Spears.
I don't think I have anything city related. As far as the 4th, I got to spend my evening going over to a friend's house with a hose and putting out spot fires in her yard from her neighbors, shooting off in the street. And even after they did it the first time, they came over and they stamped it out. And they said, that was a close one. And then they went right back to it. So I brought over a hose and we sat in our yard and watched them finish their fireworks display for about an hour and a half. I think it was so disrespectful, and the amount of just like hate and disrespect that was thrown at the fire department. I'd like to apologize to our members of the fire department that are here in attendance. Like it was embarrassing just to see just the disrespect and the hate and just the disregard for decency. If we continue to have fireworks sales, I think we need to limit it to probably the day of, because if there is a ban, then we'll know. They can service enough people that are going to buy it in 3 days and 1 day. It's not a question of volume or availability or any of that stuff. And I think that would cut down on potential problems, if we do have to, in the next 10 years, start banning fireworks because of public safety, but just the disregard for other people's safety under the guise of their freedoms. If I can't have a recreational fire, why are we allowed to shoot off fireworks? Right? Why? I've been respecting the recreational fire ban for the last week. And will respect it until they lift it, hopefully sometime before October. But yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you. Councilmember Whitwer.
Yeah, I was home for the 4th, and I do commend the fire department and the fire chief's decision. I think under our current weather conditions, that was definitely the right call. And I made it a point to go around to most of the neighborhoods and talk with folks that were lighting off fireworks, not in a confrontational manner, or letting them know who I was, just asking them what they were still firing them off, how they thought about the contention, what they'd like to see, and the general compromise that the citizenry has been willing to concede to is if there was a safe place that they could under a ban, like parking lot or a general use area that is outside of residence locations, having it more of a better notification where they feel like they're being bamboozled, where if they buy these fireworks with the intention that, yeah, you can light these off, and then suddenly they get banned, they feel like that they've been taken advantage of. So I think maybe limiting the sale to 36 hours before the holiday, and we need to know, is the ban is it going to happen or not? So if we're going to ban fireworks, then okay, we don't sell them. If they're going to be allowed, okay, now they're open for sale. But we need to have that hard line of, yes, here you go, yes you can, no you can't in the city, no you can't buy them here. So it's we can't offer them in one hand and then say no, you can't light them off with the other hand. People get really pissed off about that, and they were lighting them off in protest, and the vitriol is coming from that kind of the double standard. They were feeling like you just took advantage of me. The other thing is, I know we have a large veteran community, and I know that they would love to have the opportunity to light these off to celebrate the year that they've spent defending our freedoms. So I think having that option, regardless of the decision that we have to make on the 4th of July, to light them off for 4 to 6 hours on New Year's with fireworks sales, because those fireworks sales also go to charitable causes to help fund great programs in the area. So I would like to be able to open that door as well for the celebration of our nation, our veterans, and support those businesses and charities as well. Maybe during the holiday season with the New Year's. So.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Carl.
Well, disappointment is an understatement. The disrespect was pockets of resistance all over town that I saw from my deck. And I apologize as well on behalf of, well, myself. I can only speak for myself, but it sounds like it's across the board that fire district, certainly the chief didn't deserve that. I've known Chief Rohrbach for a couple of decades now, and the guy is a consummate professional. He knows his craft, and I know that he didn't make that decision lightly. And just a complete and utter disregard and disrespect, some of the hateful comments on Facebook, people hiding behind social media, any movement, I think that above average percentage on that advisory vote had, I think they lost that momentum. They certainly lost me on that, and I support banning fireworks altogether.
Thank you so much. I'm going to make a couple comments, and then I'd like to hear from Chief Rohrbach, who's online. And I don't know, I see we have the commissioner and others from the fire department here. I'm happy to hear any comment, but probably having the chief speak. First of all, I want to thank the citizens that did comply. My family, we enjoy that. We make a picnic out of it. My kids come. I have 11 grandkids. It's a fun thing. We didn't do that this year because we obey the law. When the Gray Road fire happened, Chief Rohrbach and I walked through that together for the days through that and the months after. And I've never met a more professional in all my career. And I told him that, man, if I was about 40 years younger, I'd be fire. I'd come work for you. I have so much respect for him, and I know he did not make this lightly, and he made the decision for us. And he's worthy of honoring that decision. Whether we think it was a gnat's eyelash on one side or the other, it's civil disobedience. When he makes that call, it's has the force of law, and our community should have honored that like any other law, because we're good citizens, because we're a good community. So I thank those who did comply. It was utter defiance. I was completely disappointed in those who did. And I think the few put at risk the privilege of all. So it's not right. It's a privilege, like a driver's license. It can be given and it can be taken away. I'm going to tell you an anecdotal story. When I worked for the city of Cheney, one year the fire chief said, you know, it's been pretty dry. It's getting pretty close. And he made the call and he said, we're going to ban them for this year. And they had 2 days notice. And the people were mad about it. And they went crazy, and they many people just went ahead in this college town. So they went for it. And the fire department spent that entire night putting out fires. And when they came back, the council was so disappointed that the community couldn't comply with that. This is probably about 15 years ago. I'll have to find the year for you. And over the next few months, the council passed a ban. And they said, we're going to ban fireworks. We don't have the bandwidth to manage it. We don't have the police or fire personnel to deal with civil disobedience. And so because of the resources and the risk, and we don't have the resources to respond to an outright major fire that could happen that we can't contain. And this was all those many years ago. They got banned and they never came back. When the Spokane County banned them in 1991, they never came back. So the few put everybody who enjoys the fireworks at risk of losing that privilege. It's a privilege. And I supported that privilege. But after last night, I'm with you, Councilman Harbolt. I was so disappointed. And I don't know how we can manage when you can thumb your nose. When I'll tell you, citizens, when I put out that vote and I asked for that to be on the ballot, I wanted to know what you thought. I enjoy fireworks. I know you enjoy fireworks. I want to see, let's see what the citizens want to do. Because I had a plan that if we're going to have fireworks, what kind of fireworks do we want? What kind of fireworks can we manage? How can we be civil and keep it off of public property, which is a state law? It's already a gross misdemeanor if you light a firework on the street, if you light a firework in the park, if you light a firework on state land, it's a gross misdemeanor. And so people don't keep it on their private property, which is where it's supposed to be. And they light them off early. They keep lighting them off. We had fireworks go off till 2 o'clock in the morning. And so you not only don't comply with the law, you don't comply with the time, you don't. And these are the few, not the many. So I'm very disappointed. And when you think that the few want to say, we can do whatever we want and you can't tell us what to do, that's just rebellion. And it just can't be tolerated. That kind of civil business, that's not what makes for a good community, in my opinion. So I know I've said a lot. But I feel strongly about fireworks, and I wanted to protect that privilege for all of us to enjoy, limit it in time and space and the kinds, so that we could all enjoy them for many years to come. Because if you hadn't noticed, they're going away. The right to blow them off in a city is going away. There's 3 little cities left. So yeah, I don't know that you made the right call on that one, those few. So I want to hear from Chief Warbach. If you would tell us about the decision. Why does it just come out a couple of days before? And I understand that, but I think the public would like to hear that there's a real science and a contemplative way and approach that you made there. So thank you for joining us tonight, and the floor is yours.
You are welcome. Apologies that I can't be there in person. Are you able to hear me okay?
We can, thank you.
Okay. So let me give a little context around the decision. And I know Council Mayor, you've heard me talk about the month of June being a really important month for us. And so I want to talk about the setup coming into the 4th, because we consider a lot of factors more than just the weather the day of, or the weather the day either side of the holiday. And so late spring, we had a really good shot of moisture, particularly coming through April, May. Seemed like not much of a winter, but then a good shot of moisture as our fine fuels were really growing. And so we saw a record high vegetation growth. And then the exact setup that I've talked to you guys about previously happened in June, where the moisture turned off. So for perspective, the month of June for the Medical Lake area, normal would be 1.17 inches of precipitation. We had 0.26. So we're about 78% of normal. So near record fuel height with, 22% normal precip. So we're really low. Fuels are really dry. And so that was the setup. We actually, I think it's probably the earliest at the end of May, as things were drying out, we had a wildfire that resulted in one structure lost and 30 acres in May. And then coming into June, saw a weather forecast for strong winds, and actually circulated email prior to that event on Friday and Saturday leading up to that Tuesday. That was the day that the upriver fire occurred, Tuesday. So we saw that weather event coming in advance. That resulted in 15 structures lost, multiple damaged, and one fatality, which I personally experienced. I was the first resource to go verify presence at that address. So have seen this damage firsthand. Additionally to that, we were looking at our fire indices. What's the science showing us for our fire danger rating zone, which is upper basin. That encompasses the southern half roughly of Spokane County, including Medical Lake. And that had been at high fire danger for weeks coming into the event. On June 29th, the Spokane County Fire Chiefs Association, in coordination with Spokane County, enacted countywide burn restrictions, really to reduce human caused fires, restrict open burning and recreational fires. So all the chiefs were looking at those same indices, really a data driven approach. And then when I looked at the context of what's going on nationally, we're at what's called a national preparedness level 4, which 5 is the highest. And that's how they track the availability of resources to come in the event of a very large fire. So we're already looking at a very early resource strain going into the holiday weekend. What made us optimistic was a cooler, wetter weather pattern that set up before the holiday weekend, and we actually began to reevaluate, thinking that if that pattern remained in place, that the conditions would be favorable for the 4th of July. So, despite a lot of the comments, and I know this group knows it to be true, but it wasn't related to any political position by the fire department to try and not allow fireworks, or that I won't even speak to, that our firefighters are not patriotic or they don't want to celebrate the 4th. This was all data driven, and that cooler weather pattern gave us hopes that it would actually be a go. There was a lot of discussion around what the forecast was and where that data was being obtained. And I know a lot of folks have different applications that they use, but we use the National Weather Service. When we go out on large fires, they provide us incident meteorologists that specialize in fire behavior, fire danger, and forecasting fire weather conditions. So that's our professionals. And they all tell me that forecast confidence really comes in the 72-hour period. And as we hit that 72-hour period, they had actually been upping the temps, upping the winds. And so we saw temps in the mid 80s both days, with I think Friday was a little better, but still temps, winds gusting up into the high to upper teens. And then on Saturday, they started in the low 20s, but they actually ratcheted up the forecast for day of. And so best available information for that decision rationale came from the National Weather Service at that time. And it really showed what the fire chiefs in the county call an 80-20 day. And that's when our temps are above 80 degrees. Our relative humidity has potential to be below 20% and winds are over 20 because those are the conditions that we see catastrophic wildfire. And so that was really the setup. We felt like outside of, any policy decision or anything related to patriotism or independence, that wasn't part of our rationale. It was, we're here to support public safety. What does the data show us? And then what do the codes of Medical Lake say? And they talk about extreme fire danger being defined as periods of hot and dry conditions. And we certainly felt that the potential existed. And so that's the decision rationale. We have some stats and stuff that we're willing to provide, but I think that's probably a good point for me to pause and see if you have any questions for me.
Thank you, Chief. I will just say that I just want to reiterate that the 72-hour period, it's about weather. All the things leading up to, we already knew we were high risk, but it's a small window. And so it's not something we can plan 6 months in advance or even a month in advance. It's something that happens if, 72 hours or less in advance. So I thought I appreciate all your comments. I don't know, council, any questions or comments that you might want to add. I thank you for that thorough explanation.
No, I have full confidence in the chief and in our fire department. I truly believe he made the right and the professional call. But as I had said before, I think we need to link the putting fireworks starting for sale with approval, whether the ban's in place or not going to be in place for the 4th is when we start the sale of fireworks, or we're just not going to be selling fireworks in town. And I think that would help alleviate some of this behavior from our citizens. So as if we're all on the same page with once this decision is made from our very professional and knowledgeable fire chief, with the authority that we've rightfully given him to make that call. We should be behind him with the sale of our fireworks or not. So.
Thank you so much. I don't know if anyone else from the fire department wants to add anything more to what our chief has shared, but we appreciate you supporting your chief and being here and available to answer questions. I'm going to ask, yes, go ahead and come forward. Just give us your name and your title. So we have that on the record.
Aaron Buller, Deputy Chief, Spokane County Fire District 3. Hearing all your comments tonight, as you can imagine, not only did we have the social media outbreak, which I completely avoided on purpose because I didn't want to see what was out there, but we also had a lot of people who phoned us, and the people who would actually come out and say who they were and what their concerns were and what their issues were, which I greatly appreciate. Whether they were super frustrated, angry, got ears full, whatever, at least we could talk it out and have a civil conversation. But as you guys are talking this through, probably the number one issue that we got in all of the phone calls from everybody wasn't necessarily related to the fire weather and the burn ban. It was related to, I already bought my fireworks and who's going to pay for them. So the fireworks stands were open a day before. We didn't get to put the burn ban in effect because we were really closely monitoring the weather based on that wet weather pattern we had come in the weekend before. And so it was, who's going to pay for my fireworks? Why are we still selling fireworks when a burn ban's in place? And it was really the frustration, as you're saying, Councilmember Wilbur, that people were frustrated about the fact that they were still able to purchase them and not able to discharge them. So I think you're tracking some great information, but I wanted to share that because we did get a lot of phone calls and a lot of stuff from the community, and that was a very common concern. So
Appreciate that.
thank you for your support.
Thank you so much. Did you have something?
I do. That reminded me, thank you very much.
Yeah.
That reminded me. So I took my two sons down to one of the stands to buy some poppets, right? Because they wanted to throw poppets at each other. And while I was there, the lady that was managing the stand tried to convince me that the ban didn't apply to us and that it wasn't legally enforceable and it only pertained to public property, and that we couldn't actually legislate that and to just go ahead and buy $400 in mortars anyways. So it was very disappointing to have to fight with the clerk at a stand. And I know it's their fundraiser, right? I know that they invest a lot of time and a lot of money into it, but I mean, we used to sell a lot of products that we have deemed that are unsafe or harmful to society. So maybe it's time to shift to a different fundraiser.
So in 2025, I'll just add that 2025 under an emergency order, I did ban. That was the year, or 2024, the year after the Gray Road fire, and we had the nonprofit groups that were selling, and had the stands. I tried under the emergency order, sent that to legal for review to say, can we ban the sale and use? And it gets a little sticky when you start telling commerce people in business what they can and can't sell. And that's a point of litigation, actually, to limit people on their livelihood. So it's a right, and I can sell, and I can be in commerce, I can engage. And so anyway, I just, so we learned that lesson then, which is why we brought it forward that the sale and the use really need to go hand in hand. But again, that state law takes a year to come into effect. And so anyway, we're working on that part. But I will say that the disappointment is just resounding in my mind. I'd like, we have one more comment from Chief Johnson. If you want to come forward, please.
So I'm Fire Commissioner Ken
Fire
Johnson.
Commissioner, okay, sorry.
And I'll just make a comment on the risk model that you guys have in place. So having the police chief or the fire chief make the decision in the last 3 days, we're looking at risk in the fire service every day. That's why we staff up, and we look at those decisions internally on how we're going to handle that. For your guys' perspective on how you guys want to manage that in your own town, that's a little tougher because you've got to plan out a little further ahead, and if you're going to restrict sales or whatever. So if the policy decisions were made on your guys' behalf on whether you wanted to make those decisions of whether you wanted the fireworks or not, based off of that decision, you couldn't get any further out than that because it's too hard to predict where you're going to be. So it's a pretty narrow window, and so the reflection of that is citizens being upset. Where I think the citizens don't really realize that while they believe in the right to utilize the fireworks when they choose to, they're not really aware of the mitigation efforts that occur on the backside of that. Where we saw it after the Gray Road fire, this community saw their insurance go up quite a bit. And that's because the insurance companies are going to spread that loss throughout the community. So that's what the fire service does, right? We're trying to be on the front side of it, prevent the fires from occurring. On the back side of it, the insurance companies, what we are unable to mitigate, which is a day like the Gray Road fire, the winds are too much. The capabilities of the air resources are restricted. Maybe we're at a preparedness level 5 and they're just not available. Those costs continue to increase, and so each of us in the community have to know that if we're going to be doing that, if we're going to allow the fireworks, if they're going to burn the neighbor's house down, that we're all going to pay for that. So they're going to spread that cost throughout the community, and so each insurance company decides that on their own. Some of them pull out of the community completely. So I don't think a lot of community members think about that. on the backside just because it's usually in small amounts that they do that. But we're seeing that increase. My personal home insurance cost me after the Gray Road fire $300 a month. And so to be honest with you, I'd rather give that to the fire department directly than pay that to my insurance company, because that's going to be a usage in the community that's going to be effective. So just something to consider when they're looking at policy decisions.
We appreciate that. Thank you so much.
You bet.
Can I just
Councilmember
ask-
Pritchard.
Sorry, I can't like zoom out on my phone enough to log into Facebook anymore. I like pick the bicycles or whatever, but I can't press verify. So I didn't see anything on this. But are you guys were you threatened on the phone?
Well, I think it's people, I think
Okay.
what goes on is people are basically saying that because of the decision, we're not being patriotic
Yeah, that's what.
by putting those restrictions in. So,
Okay, sorry.
But we also have to realize that a lot of those are bots. It's not even real people. It's generated to create likes and animosity and
Stir
some of
up.
that stuff's built into those systems. So
Would
um,
everybody feel? I mean, was there an unsafe feeling at all in the fire district?
I don't think so.
So you
I
guys
think
are
it
all
was just
some guys. Yeah,
Chief,
yeah.
were you feeling unsafe at any time with some of the comments that came directly to you?
Was that directed to me, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'd say they were right on the edge. I was concerned. I was concerned for my family. I think one of the great things, as I reflected on Independence Day is our right and our ability to express our opinions. And I would say overall, there was some folks that were extremely pleased with the decision, right? That reached out and were quite emotional with relief. And then on the very other end of the spectrum, we had folks that would, I would call hate speech and foul language. And, that was a concern. I was concerned at some point, but I do try to appreciate the right that folks have to express their opinion. There were several, more than several that reached out directly, and a lot of them were willing to have good conversation. And I can think of a couple people in particular that really, once they understood the decision rationale, they really felt differently about how they originally approached the matter. But yeah, it was not the constructive communication that I would like, but I also recognize that that's my job. It's my job to make the hard decisions, to put them in the room before the room is ready for it, and I've got to prioritize public safety. And so, as part of doing that and making those hard decisions, we anticipate that that's a right of the community to do that. But it is concerning, right, when it starts to border on harassment and you start to be concerned for your family.
Thank you so much. I want to say also that we heard a lot of comment about, why don't we just stage it up in a public place and, have the fire department there and everyone can shoot those off. Well, a couple things, communities have done that, found that that's not that safe either. They're shooting unpredictable fireworks with a mass of people all shooting them off in the same area has proven to be a problem, but also that state law then has forbidden any use on public lands at all. So our insurance company would not insure us to allow people to come on city property and light them off, nor the school district couldn't do it because they're state land and there's already a state law that says it's forbidden. So I think that train has left the station, but we're going to have more a lot more comments on this, and I'd like to have it come back as a workshop. I wanted to hear from our city administrator. He takes directives from us. I'm his direct report. I'm his boss, and then all of you are the policymakers. And so, Sonny, if you were to summarize what you've heard.
Well, if I may, Mayor, I do have some notes from the sheriff's office if you'd like to hear.
Yes, please.
And those were provided as well. There's an email from Under Sheriff Lundgren explaining some things, but just to summarize that, it's important to recognize that enforcement presents substantial practical and legal challenges. On the 4th of July, Spokane County Sheriff's Office received 862 calls for service countywide, and almost half of those, 426, were fireworks related complaints. And that 426 calls specifically to fireworks is nearly equal to their average daily call volume in other months. So fireworks violations are treated, they're prioritized adequately, often prioritized as incidents that are lower priority because it doesn't compare to emergencies involving threats to life and safety, and deputies are made to triage those as they come in. Additionally, under the Washington law, the fireworks violations generally must occur in the presence of a deputy for enforcement action to be taken. And because fireworks are often ignited and consumed within seconds, locating offenders and establishing probable cause can be difficult, particularly during periods when numerous violations are occurring simultaneously and there's only so many deputies to respond. They also made the recommendation that moving forward, the discussion shouldn't focus solely on enforcement, but also on strengthening the city's legal framework. Sheriff's Office identified that while the city has adopted portions of state fireworks law, that certain sections of our code currently lack specific penalties for violations of locally imposed restrictions, including the temporary prohibition issued by the fire chief. And that by establishing clear penalties and enforcement mechanisms within the municipal code that would provide a greater accountability and improve the city's ability to effectively address future violations. So appreciate the comments from our partners at the Sheriff's Office to help contextualize the enforcement and education piece. We did have an extra duty deputy on hand that day who was busy, very busy. So to summarize, per your request, Mayor Cooper, I think what I've heard is that the city's expectation is that residents will comply with lawful public safety directives, especially during periods of elevated risk, that the events of July 4th demonstrated that additional education and clearer consequences and consideration of enhanced enforcement strategies may be necessary to better protect the community in the future. The blatant disregard shown by some individuals toward the fire chief's temporary fireworks prohibition was disappointing and understandably concerning to many of you. And at the same time, City Council recognizes that there are significant enforcement limitations faced by law enforcement, particularly during holiday periods when hundreds of calls for service are occurring all at the same time. Going forward, staff will evaluate potential municipal code amendments and public education efforts and enforcement options to ensure that the city has all the tools necessary to promote compliance and protect public safety during future periods of elevated risk. I'm happy to take down any more notes if I missed anything.
Councilmember Pritchard, anything you want to?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, out of that 446, do you know how many were in Medical Lake area?
I don't, it's didn't have time to get that really finite detail, but those were countywide minus Spokane Valley.
And then were there any civil infractions given out that night? I mean,
I don't have an answer to that at this point either. I apologize.
I think, yeah, I'm appreciative that Sunday was, I did see him, Spokane Valley.
Yeah.
Conversations that we'd had was with the sheriff's offices. We really wanted to move toward education. So we do have limited times, we do have expectations, and so education was the main emphasis going into the day. I don't know what the outcome was on that, but again, it's really hard for law enforcement to everywhere in the moment of ignition and see who did it. I mean, it's just impossible. So I would guess none. So this council needs to do some work and see where we want to land, because I think that to not seriously consider and take some kind of action when in the face of just civil disobedience, we don't have the manpower nor the resources, and it just can't be tolerated. And I'm a pro fireworks person, so I just was again disappointed. So I would love to see this come back with council's permission to bring this back as a workshop, and that we consider what options we have and where we want to go in the future to protect the privilege, protect people, or or to take some, what pieces do we need in place, and that will be a decision of this council. So
just blows my mind. So I mean, you guys are so busy right now. You have to field phone calls of people being disrespectful. It just so blows my mind. I mean, Chief Roebuck's in Colorado right now, and he's got to stop what he's doing to. Sorry, I'm
Worry
putting it
about
in
his
context
family,
right now.
worry about his family.
Oh, I know. This
He's
is
down there
that's
protecting another community.
that's the most.
Yeah, it's too far. It was a step too far. And again, when the advisory vote went out, it was to see what's the public perception and how do we move forward to do this safe and sanely so that we can preserve it. But I've changed my mind now. So because as soon as that advisory vote came out, people lit off fireworks on New Year's Eve. They knew that they're not allowed on New Year's Eve. And then and now the defiance under a ban is just too much. And so no, it isn't your right. It's privilege, and with privilege comes responsibility. And those that did not obey failed in their duty to be responsible for their neighbor and their community. So I see your hands up, Chief Orbach.
Yes, thank you. So couple things for consideration. One, I want to make sure that you also have context that a lot of community members were willing to have good discussion on the topic. The vast majority were respectful, and so a lot of people did a really good job with this, regardless of their personal feelings on the topic. And so I think that reflects the overall Medical Lake community, and we're really appreciative for those folks. And we also appreciate the right that other folks have to express their opinions in different ways. And then secondly, I believe our staff has prepared some statistics for you as far as what we experienced over the period that may be beneficial.
Wonderful. We'll bring those back then. I think we have one more comment here. Go ahead and come up. And I want to say again, I appreciate all those who complied and said, darn kids, we all love it, but it just can't happen this year. And a lot of civil conversation, a lot of ideas and thoughts and good conversations. It's the few, like so many things in life, it's the few that can ruin it for all. And so I just, that's the message from my perspective. Yes.
Bill Benstead, Spokane County Fire District 3 Deputy Chief there. I just wanted to give you stats. Stats are always, people like to hear the numbers and everything. So
Yes.
I'm going to dive back to 24 when you banned after Gray Road on that year. And July 4th doesn't always fall on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So we need to put some perspective to these. So specifically on July 4th in 2024, we had 13 total incidents in Fire District 3, no fire related incidents, no firework related, and no fires in Medical Lake during that ban. That predicted weather was less than what we were predicted this year as well. On 2025, fireworks were allowed. We had 13 incidents total in this District 3, 1 fire, 0 firework related, 0 in Medical Lake. And these are reportable incidents as well. So I'm sure council member put out a lot of fires that never got called 911. We never showed up to. In 2026, we had 24 total incidents. Our average daily is 10. We had 8 fires, 7 were firework related that we know about, and 2 were in Medical Lake that we know about that got reported. Now going through kind of like the weekend, like the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday section when fireworks continue to get let off. So 2024, we had 28 total incidents, 2 fires. 2025, we had 40 incidents with 6 fires, and this is total for all District 3. I think in 25, we had an illegal burn reported in 25. 26, we had 50 total through the weekend, 14 fires, and 7 of those were firework related to in Medical Lake. So I know it's a lot of information, but I want to get some of that out. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Okay. Well, I appreciate the public taking the time. I appreciate your comments. And I appreciate council taking the time to share your concerns and your thoughts. So we will be bringing that back as a workshop and consider what options we have and keep working on that and work with the public and land in the right spot. So, all right. I don't know. moving on to the city administrator and staff. So Sunny, did you have anything else you wanted to share?
I'd like to mention a few things a little lighter.
Yes.
And then ask that we strike the grant application report. That didn't get, I don't think it's in the packet, is it?
I didn't see it.
It got overlooked, and so we'll bring that back next meeting if that's all right with you.
Might take a little vote on that strike the grant application. Entertain a motion for that since we don't have the materials.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we can want that. We have added documentation. Thank you.
Right, well, I just wanted to mention that the AWC Association of Washington City's annual conference was a big success, drew near record attendance of nearly 600 attendees, and those are all municipal leaders and staff and partners from across the state. Notably, they said that approximately 200 attendees were there for their first time. And so that was pretty great. And they reflected on strong interest in professional development and collaboration and the future of local government. The conference provided some valuable opportunities to share best practices and discuss emerging challenges and to strengthen the relationships that can help cities deliver effective services and build stronger communities. I think AWC socks. It came out with Washington United. It's got kind of a soccer theme because the World Cup's going on, but it's really great. And the Washington United theme too, I think is just really critical at this time where cities are trying to unite and say, how do we tell our state legislators that we've got ideas and we should be part of the conversation before you tell us how to do the work that needs to be done. So it's AWC is a great resource. I just really appreciate them. Also wanted to mention that we had America's 250th celebration kickoff and Linger at the Lake concert on July 2nd. It was a great turnout. Really, really excited for the folks that came out. We kicked off the nation's Independence Day celebration with memorable community gathering. We honored our shared history and patriotism and hometown spirit. The ceremony brought together residents and community leaders and veterans, and it honored guests for an inspiring evening of reflection and celebration. Kathy McMorris Rogers gave some great words. Mayor Cooper gave some great words. Very inspiring. Festivities continued with a really great Linger at the Lake concert where families and friends and visitors enjoyed great music and fellowship in the beautiful setting of Waterfront Park. And of course, the strong turnout and positive energy throughout the evening highlighted what makes our community very special, and it set the stage for a really great Independence Day weekend. Of course, that changed a little bit after the fact, but it was a great start to the weekend. And then only other thing I just want to mention event-wise is that the community yard sale is set to take place this weekend, July 11th and 12th. So yeah, clean out your garage if you're ready.
Very good. Thank you so much. We'll move on into our workshop discussion. This is our periodic update. The Medford News Code Amendment concerning impact fees. That's starting on page 3 of the briefing sheet. Senior Planner Lisa Rodriguez will that. And then the comprehensive plan part 3 will follow.
Hi, everyone. Anyone dying? This
It's pretty toasty in here.
Why, yes, I am.
Let's see if
I
we
saw
can get it
Scott
to-
over there trying to work his magic.
I was saying, it was set at,
Let's turn it up.
it was set at 84. Maybe it'll make a difference. No,
That's right.
we'll see. People are melting in the back. Okay, so I think as the mayor says, page 3, we have the
Yes, ma'am.
briefing sheet for impact fees. So this is our first touch for you on impact fees. I've had a briefing with the Planning Commission. So step 2 of 6. Our state allows 4 types of impact fees: schools, fire protection, transportation, and parks. Medical Lake adopted schools, fire protection, and parks in 1999. Impact fees are set by looking at the expected population growth and determining the cost of facilities needed to accommodate that growth. And they are collected during the building permit phase, generally set up as a per household, either for single family or multifamily. Generally, multifamily is a little less because the household size for multifamily is generally fewer than a single family home. And then if the commercial permits are based on square footage, but parks and schools do not pay, or excuse me, commercial projects do not pay for parks and school impacts. So our municipal code says that impact fees should be visited annually. However, even though we've had it since 1999, only once was the parks impact fee revisited and increased in 2011. So ideally, every year we would look at these prior to our budget season. So if the service is provided by someone other than the city, that agency is the agency that has to come up with the methodology and the impact fee. And then an interlocal agreement is created for us to collect the fee. So it's mandatory that the city collect the fee. So we collect and then we remit to that organization. But they have to do all the background in creating that fee. So our fire impact fee was based on the Medical Lake Fire Department that we had in 1999, but we no longer have. So Spokane County Fire District 3 is interested in having an impact fee, but their district is much greater than the city of Medical Lake. And so more work would need to go into creating that fee. And they're not able to accomplish it this year because of our timeline is kind of their busiest time of year. So it is something that they will be looking at for next year. So we want to revisit impact fees annually. That doesn't mean we have to change them. It's just we should be looking at them to see if our methodology and our numbers are still good for Medical Lake. So the fire district, because the fee was based on a fire department that does not exist any longer and the facilities that they were proposing, it is proposed to discontinue that impact fee at the end of this year. And then if Fire District 3 decides that they would like an impact fee in the future, then it will get added back in. And it's only a few $100s, by the way, currently like maybe $300 at the most. So it's not that much per resident. Let's see. So the school district is also interested in updating fees. Oh, yes.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, does that money go to Fire District?
Yes, we still give it to Fire District
Yeah.
3. We do not have an interlocal agreement. And you know, we've only had a handful of residents built each year, and it does include commercial, but we haven't had a lot of commercial built either. So they do receive those. Yeah.
So is it is it kind of illegal to do that, or I mean, is it not? Is it questionable? I mean, should I ask you that? This is a public setting. I don't know. I mean, it just seems like it's a nice thing to do. It's still do something.
I don't know about the legality.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't.
I apologize for asking.
It's the way we try to
trying
set it, that'll end at the end of
Okay,
this year
that's
until
that.
we do something formal in the future. So business as usual through the rest of this year, and then after Fire District 3 will do their 4 million. They want us to
I just wondered.
do that in the future.
So the school district also interested in updating their fees, but they are in the midst of creating a new capital facilities plan for the school district. So once again, like their timeline and our timeline don't quite mesh up. We will just keep the school district as is. It's based on classroom size and population projections. So whether it is exact for our time at this point is unknown, but we will just keep that on the books until they're able to update it next year. Then the parks fee, which is our own fee, we are working to update that fee. The current fee is based on a minimum acreage of parks per 1,000 residents. This is not ideal because that's just land. It doesn't talk about improvements or amenities in those parks. And since we have a large park, the waterfront park, but fewer neighborhood parks, we're looking at how can we look at this differently in order to make it more equitable throughout our community. So we're in the midst of that. also transportation. So we haven't had transportation in the past. It was discussed in 1999 in the records that I found. Basically, they decided that they did not have enough information. I mentioned when I brought the draft transportation plan to you that we have not had a transportation plan before. So essentially, the city council at that point in time decided that they just didn't have enough information in order to create the traffic impact fee. So we will be investigating that to see if it's appropriate for Medical Lake, but that will also be something for next year, not this year. So we don't even have an adopted plan yet. That's next meeting. Just to give you a heads up on the fun next time. That covers impact fees. Any questions about?
Just to clarify, the impact fees are paid by the households.
Right,
when
so
you
it's
build.
it's at building permit stage. So
Okay.
if it's a spec house, a speculation, right, they pay it, the builder pays it, and those fees are of course included in the price of the home.
Okay, and do we have like any range, like we've been discussing promoting ADUs, so do you have like an estimated amount for an ADU?
So we have not. The state says that an ADU can be no more than 50% of a single family house. So we know that if we don't have anything on the books, we would charge 50% of what we charge for a home right now.
Okay.
But we do, we'll be looking at to see if it's appropriate to just keep the single family, multifamily ADU, or we have other housing types. Do we want to look at how that attributes to other housing types, right? Because it's basically household size.
And so do you have a rough estimate for a single family home?
For the fees? Yes. No. I mean, we have existing fees and parks is a little over $1,000 for a single family home. This, like the schools is maybe in the 300s and fire's a little under that. These are all really low compared to the state averages.
Okay.
So we don't want to, create crazy high impact fees that would prevent development in our community. But right now we are on the super low side for impact fees.
Okay, thank you.
Any more
And I
questions
see your
about that
next
topic?
steps on that are, goes to planning commission July 23rd, and then the language will be provided to the city council on August 4th.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any questions or other thoughts on the impact fees? We have some work to do in the future, but thank you. Things that we're still identifying and working through, and thank you so much. If there's no other comment then from council, we'll move on then to the next workshop item, which is a comprehensive plan part 3.
Thank you.
A thorough read, however many pages. it
81
was.
pages.
So go ahead and give us your thoughts there, and then we'll.
So you can see in the briefing sheet, there's a few more steps for the comprehensive plan. So we're in step 6 of 9 for adoption. The next step is a hearing at planning commission, followed by a hearing with you. So previously, we've been doing this in parts. So you reviewed part 1 and part 2, and now you have all 3 parts. The people, the place, and the future. Part 3 includes placemaking, zoning development standards, and the urban growth area. There's been revisions throughout, but the most noticeable are the addition of level of service standards for utilities and streets. So levels of service helps, or really is vital for evaluating concurrency during development, review of new development. So the transportation is on page 51 of the packet, and utilities start on page 61 of the packet. And we have our public hearing tonight for transportation, and that does include new chapters for concurrency. So this all ties together. And you can see by that language how our public works director uses these standards to evaluate the new development and its impacts on the community.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
I got all caught up on reduce sprawl today. And And my question is there like an acreage that we look at where before it's considered sprawling? Cause I like sprawling. So I'm looking at the reduced sprawl and I'm like, what does that mean exactly? When do you start looking at it as sprawling?
Yeah. So the Growth Management Act essentially is trying to plan for growth, right? So some states do not have anything like that, and growth just happens anywhere. And it's not restricted to like urban areas. It really can happen anywhere. And they call it leapfrogging, where you have like a new subdivision and you'll still have a farm, and then you have a new subdivision. And this is troublesome for a lot of reasons. And one of them is for infrastructure. It is super expensive to be providing infrastructure on these, sporadic and hard to predict developments. So in our state, that's why we have urban growth areas, where we limit urban type growth inside our urban growth area, and rural development is meant to be outside our urban growth area. So the GMA also says that when we are looking at growth, we need to look at infill first, and if that is no longer available, then we look at expansion. And so for our city, we have some infill potential, and we also have a couple of areas that we would like the county to let us have for future growth, because we want to help with residential in the West Plains.
Yes, and I was fitting it together okay today with the states wanting us to add 108,000 homes to this area, not Medical Lake, but this area, and what our portion of that was requested. And then I got a little caught up with like, are we looking at someplace out on Espanola that has 40 acres? Is that a sprawl? That's not a sprawl, because it's not within.
That is if you were to develop out there, that would be considered sprawl. Sprawl, because it's not within the urban growth area, right? So our urban growth area is basically preventing sprawl.
Okay.
Right? It's in place to prevent sprawl.
I do appreciate that.
Does the county put little developments like all over the Airway Heights, like around Airway Heights? What's up with?
Yep, and east of the freeway. And
Because in this county, the urban growth area and cities are not equal. So there's a significant area of urban growth area, so meant for urban development, that is still in county jurisdiction. And I cannot give you the background on that. I have no idea why that is the way it is. Yeah.
Well, because I mean, all of this is linked up. I mean, you got the comprehensive plan, the growth management, you've got the tip, it's all the language is the same, which is commendable. So right now I'm gonna jump around a little bit, if that's okay.
Can I stop you just for a second, see if anybody else has a comment before it, anything else? Otherwise, I'll let you go ahead on to your next topic. Councilmember, you have something? Okay, go right ahead then.
Sorry. On the part, and I'm trying to look for the page frantically, where it's talking about removing the acres for over by Fox Hollow, and then adding or retaining 96 acres, and then is this zoning? Are we talking about zoning it differently? I don't really get what we're talking about when we say remove them.
So those areas are not in our city limits. And right now, the potential expansion area, so the city cannot annex property that is not in the urban growth area. So right now, our urban growth expansion areas are to the southwest, with a state property that was put in our UGA in the 90s because the state had a project that did not come to fruition. They have no plans at this point to use that property. So the city is requesting of the county to make a swap. So take away the southwest and add the one to the east towards the.
So it's an agreement.
Pardon?
It's an agreement.
The county controls the urban growth area, so it's like a county area. They make the decision, we make a request.
Okay, so
Mhm.
this up here, we currently have, and we're saying, hey, we're gonna give that in exchange for these two. I think I'm doing that right.
Yeah, so we have the southwest one, we would like to relinquish in order to gain the east one. And then up north, we have, so it's not in the city, above, or excuse me, north of Goose Hollow, sorry, north of Fox Hollow towards the base. That is area that's still in the county, but in the urban growth area. So if we chose to expand, we could expand in that direction. So right now we have around 300 acres up there, and we have to plan for 20 years of growth, and that just exceeds our 20-year expectations. And so we are asking, because if you just ask for everything under the sun, the answer is going to be no. So we have to be reasonable. So we're asking to reduce that to 100 acres or so, and then swap the other to get the 100 acres towards Silver Lake. Okay. Yeah.
I'll say one thing that was helpful for me in understanding this is we have our boundary of our city. The urban growth area is not in our city, but it's where we designate. So this, if we were to grow, we're growing here. So that's what the urban growth area is. We have to designate that. It has to be approved by the county. So it's like the city had an anti-growth strategy. So we said, let's put 120 acres where it's too far to get any services to. And so that was useless. The county identified also that we don't see that as a true potential. So where do you really want to grow? And the county wanted us to reduce however many hundreds of acres where like you don't really show the numbers that you're going to grow that much. So we need to reduce it a little bit. How do we do that? And so we've been working on that for quite a while. Elise has been doing a great job, and we've had more meetings than I would even want to count talking about all of this. But if that helps you understand, it's we draw a line on the map that says if we were to grow, it would be here.
Okay.
Early on, we talked about when I first came into office, what about going along 902, kind of on the north side of 902? And those folks came and they're like, we do not want to, we're not going to sell our land, don't put it there. And it's like, great, that's what public hearings are for. So we did not put it there. So we're looking at putting it in places that people may want to allow growth. It's privately owned land now, it's in the county, it's not in the city. And so how do we balance that with our future growth plans? Sunny?
Yep, thank you, Mayor. If I may just contextualize it as well, the urban growth area is the county's responsibility. They draw those boundaries. We provide input, but it is a county-wide exercise, and the county needs to reduce their urban growth area. They are under pressure from the state to say you have not performed over time and you must reduce your urban growth area. So that is the larger context. And now we're talking about the city of Medical Lake. We know what's happening here. We've got our finger on the pulse, and we know that there is a shift in mindset and that we can contribute to residential growth in the area. If it was left to historical projections and the county was just going to say, we need to reduce our area, we'll just take all Medical Lakes away because they're not growing, and that's not going to grow. So we can restrict all that, and it's not going to take any consequence from anywhere else in the UGA. But we know that there's a different sentiment and the potential for some development and growth. And so the conversation is, where does that make the most sense, and how do we carve that out so that we are not hemmed in and unable to contribute to residential growth moving forward?
And it doesn't mean that we will have growth. You still have to have developers and the will and all the things that come into play. And
but just in case.
But if it were to happen, where's the best spot? So Councilmember Pritchard.
So just based on the public comment on this comprehensive is the best zone in a Brownsfield site that used to be a Nike. So is that what we're like gonna build more houses up there?
Well, that is in the city.
That
So
is-
it's
okay.
different. It's already in the city. And we are looking at changing the zone on that. And we recognize that it's a potential brownfield site.
Okay.
But it is the developer who would have to address that issue.
That's probably the most shocking.
Yeah, and I think there's, as we've had this discussion, there's potential for housing that could happen. the Nike site itself is something else
Yeah.
that would have to be addressed by whoever wants to do something with that. And there's a whole list of litany of things
Okay.
hurdles
Well, I was
they
just-
have to
I saw
overcome.
that. I was like,
Because it's already designated as brownfields, like meaning that there's potential for toxic things and they
Yeah.
have to do all of those
Yeah, okay.
ecology
Sorry.
business. So no one's gonna go in there and build something for a hotel or some weird thing. So anyway,
No, I,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it's a good, it's a good question. Someone else have another question and then we'll come back to, unless there was something more on that particular, the urban growth area. Any other comments on the urban growth area? Okay, Mr. Wilbur.
Yeah, I think it's, I think the big confusing thing is this is just making sure that all governing bodies are on the same page on a 20-year plan on where development's gonna happen in each district, in each city, in each area. So it's not, things aren't just popping up sporadically and people, communities and jurisdictions are having to try to compensate and provide services willy-nilly. That's just gonna create more of a chaos, mess, and cost. So it's a more of trying to rein all that in and say, okay, we need to be responsible and say, hey, if we're gonna be building here, now we can all put our efforts into how can we get services and proper growth in businesses and companies to be focused on putting things right here for people. So that's kind of how we need to kind of think about this. It's like, and this is the important step, is the foundation of where do we want this to happen? It's once it's decided, that's where it's going. So so many things have already trying to get, so many eyes on this and everybody agreeing that it can and should go right here. The benefit of all is moving it with task. So,
Yeah, it has been, so thank you. Anything else then? Okay, back to you, Councilmember for the Abbott.
Okay, and it was many pages and I'm doing pretty good. Okay, so on page 8 of the plan or 16 of the packet, at the top, could you just take a look at that under eco development? I think something got shifted around there. It's like the rest of the sentence is not.
You said at the top
Say that
of
number.
What number is it?
Page 16 of the packet.
But when you're looking in the actual document, is it a numbered section? That's in the.
Oh, sorry. It is.
Does it have a number? Because my page 8 is not all numbered. Like
Okay.
Public facilities, historic preservation.
Okay, it's number 5. It's number 5, but it's the last portion of number 5, which is on.
Oh, sure.
Okay, I think that it's on the opposite side of the page, I think.
I have to.
Okay, yeah, I'm not
It-
asking you what it says, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
that
I
might not take-
will check that. It looks like, some kind of formatting error has thrown things.
Slipped over in the other column.
Yeah, I think it just got
Yeah.
slipped over, that's all. And then my last thing for now
I see.
is is when we're talking about the state's how'd they phrase that? The state would like Medical Lake to provide another 187 housing units to those households between 0 and 50%. We're talking about of the median, right? 0 to 50% of the median. Okay, and are there consequences of us not meeting the state's wish for that 187 units?
So the requirement is that we have to make it possible for them to do it, and a little more than just. So the language used to be, and I forget the exact terminology, the language used to be like, it has to be available, and now we have to be a little stronger about making sure, or not making sure, but taking away barriers, making that opportunity more possible. So the state will check our comprehensive plan and our development regulations to ensure that we are doing our best to make affordable housing possible. But if it doesn't get built, there's no repercussions because we don't control the market.
Okay, right.
That's still on the developer.
Correct.
Yes, correct. And some
Not
jurisdictions.
prohibited, have rules in place that make it a barrier or difficult for that entry.
Yeah, and when I discuss these things so the Planning Technical Advisory Committee with all the planners for the county, like county and city planners, I'm always reminding them that we are great with affordable housing, but we cannot provide incentives ourselves as a small community. Like, we are happy to partner, but we as a jurisdiction cannot provide incentives to get affordable housing in our community at that level, the 0 to 50% income. Because it's generally subsidized housing.
Right. And that's my hill, so.
Um,
Thank you.
Anything else from other council members, or we'll go back to, are there other things, Ms. Ray?
I'm done for now. Thank you.
I had a couple little things myself. You should never let me read entire documents, although I did enjoy it and it's very well written. Thank you. When we talk about the history and culture on page 12, and I'll give you all these notes, but I just want to highlight them briefly. I would love to include Interlake School, which was a big part of our community at one point, as was Pine Lodge. And so our history and culture is really of state employees, housing for state employees, schools for state employees. And that was hotly contested in its day. It was a big lawsuit against the state of Washington, parents that had their profoundly disabled family members there. And so anyway, it's a big part of our culture, those state institutions and how they've waxed and waned over the years. So I just wanted to note that. And also under the population, that idea that Interlake School and Pine Lodge had, when those closed, that also impacted our population. They were counted in the population, they closed, that reduced our population, and it also caused others to maybe move out. So that was just a little thing. When you're as old as I am and been here as long as I have, you kind of know those things. And a couple other, the only other real thing, I had some other notes and I'll pass them on to you. When we talked on page 23 about our telecommunications, that we might want to include our Broadlink and our efforts for broadband, maybe a little more extensively in there. Like I said, I'll send you some notes. The brief history of land use in Medical Lake. I wanted to talk a little bit more about the state facilities and the coordinated about us being gifted that land. Other opportunities maybe for coordinating with the state, and that we will be coordinating with them in the future on, not that we'll tell them how to use their land or we'll tell us, but that's something that's coming in the very near future, and probably including it here in this plan that's going to be around a while, that says we're good partners and we're going to consider the planned uses and coordinate that, and we're going to have an agreement about that, so it's going to be important. Anybody else hop in if while I'm looking? I think the only other thing was when we talked about our downtown business district, that we talked about our economic development plan in a way that we have a business loop. So we have the signs out on the freeway is to encourage people to come in, especially into the RV sites, or we're expanding, things at the park. That we don't have just the downtown core, but that we begin to talk about our business loop, because we have the business on the other end, and then they may feel like, oh, all you care about is the business core, but it's not all our business loop. So that's all I had to say.
I was just gonna say that where parts of it were very hard to read, but it was put together well. What I really enjoyed most were the charts, especially the demographics. Seeing how many veterans we have living in this community, it was pretty cool to see that. So I appreciate the visuals.
Yeah, I appreciate it was made by somebody that cares about the community. I think the last one's pretty hard to read before, so I'm not a planner, but it's got pictures. It was clearly very well put together.
Okay, well, then I'm gonna put it up too. I really like that, how it literally can tell that the content, and it's across the board on all of the things that we're writing and putting in place for Medical Lake, because the verbiage is the same, and this links to this one, and this links to the healing waters, and it's very nice.
I really appreciate that, because this is the reason we did not hire a consultant to do the work, is because we wanted to create a plan that was for Medical Lake.
Yeah.
And not just meeting a statement.
It's a good job and a huge, it's a huge job.
Yeah, it was beautiful. The other thing a couple spots that maybe you could put in more of, or I'll also add or include, because we do it, our partnership, the importance of our partnership with the nonprofits who are hosting festivals and events in the community. And I think the vision for the ideal future park and rec system. We're going to talk about our partnership with the school. It's in there little, but then also our partnership with Mandan and the Bluegrass Festival and others that may come about over the net, because that recreational tourism is a real focus for us. So I think where I'm going with these suggestions is these are things we're going to write grants for, and we can see it's right there. It's not just once. We don't have to read through 20, find it there on the obscurity on page 16 or whatever, but it's threaded throughout to be the point, like Councilmember Ray Abbott, and you can say, yeah, this is important to us. See, it's in all of these places.
I have a couple, I was gonna make a few more points if you had any. No? Okay.
I was just gonna make a comment about your page count. And you're trying to keep it small. Where's Ellen Moron?
I know. I know, as soon as we passed 50, I was kind of sad. But the maps do take up like entire pages.
And I was happy.
Nevertheless, like I was trying to keep it small. I want to talk about the zoning map. So it's embedded in this, and there's so much information. I wanted to point out the importance of this. So in April, you adopted ordinance 1144, which established new zoning districts. Those districts have not gone into effect because we don't have the new zoning map. This document has the new zoning map, and it is small scale, and I can provide larger scale for those who prefer things on paper, and I can provide the current one for comparison, but whatever helps you. It's on page 81, by the way, in the packet, 81 of the packet, and yeah, I just don't want the significance to be lost in the midst of this greater document. So when so then we have 10 zoning districts. You adopted 5 new zoning districts. So what this map represents is first, the 3 districts for schools, institutions, and I think public lands all got combined into public facilities. So everything on that map that's brown or tan is owned by a public entity, which, by the way, is a lot. I forget the exact numbers, but we have over 1,000 acres, but after you take out the publicly owned land, it's down to about 600 some. So it's pretty significant.
Sprawling.
And then our current R1 single family residential generally flows into the low density residential zone. Our R2 and R3, which are 2-unit and multi-unit, flow into the medium density residential. And then the mixed use and commercial turn into mixed use. And then we have this separate central business district zone. So we just did a separate zone because the downtown is unique, and it's easier just to create a separate than make all these exceptions in other zones. As far as exactly the same as the previous or the current zoning, it's not. So what the significant changes are, one is the Nike site is currently zoned industrial. Just took away industrial. We're not intending to recruit industrial into our community. That was not an ideal site, considering you have to go through a residential neighborhood to get there. And there's no other access at this point to get to that site. We depend on the greater West Plains for our industry. So residential, and that leads to the letter that was submitted. It's on page 7 of your packet. And the reason you have that letter is I've been contacted by a representative from Whipple Engineering a number of times about the site and them wanting to change the zone on the site. They wanted to apply for a zone change. And we've been talking for quite a while, probably more than a year. And I have just encouraged them not to apply for a separate zone change, just to let this process happen. That the city council seems supportive of changing the zone, and that if they felt like they needed to act, why don't they write a letter of support? And so that's why you have the letter from Whipple Engineering. It's an undisclosed party that is interested in developing the site, but Whipple Consulting is their engineer. I assume it's a potential buyer. So on with zoning, generally speaking, the downtown is very similar, taking away the block that is just south of City Hall that has been in our central business district. It is all residential, I think all single family residential. Zoning is meant to get change to happen. And I don't know that we want to expand our commercial in that direction, rather just focus on the basically the Lake and LaFay intersection and around there. Let's see. So then the current zoning has R2 and R3 basically around the central business district. So now we have the medium density residential that's around that. But our current zoning also has some just pockets of the R2. So over on Sherman, you'll see some duplexes over there. And up by closer to 902, like off Stanley, there's some R2. And then there's R3 that is south of the middle school, because we have a couple of, I think there's a retirement home and an apartment building there. And so when I'm looking at zoning, one of my big concerns is I don't want to make things non-conforming that we are happy with, right? So changing to low density residential from an R2 allowed duplexes, kind of allowed single families. And so now we have duplexes, and duplexes aren't outright allowed, but because of our ADU laws, basically if that duplex has less than 1,000 square feet on either side, like they still could actually build the same thing, something that looks like a duplex, but they call it a house with an ADU. And anything that was built legally will always remain legal. So those those duplexes, they will not have a problem, for instance, getting homeowners insurance or renters insurance because they're legal, they can be rebuilt. That's not an issue. I did keep the medium density residential zoning on those two multi-dwelling developments south of the middle school, because I wouldn't want to make those so non-conforming that we don't expect them to be replaced by single family homes there. So we want to keep the appropriate zoning. But generally, I was trying not to do spot zoning everywhere around town. We have a lot of duplexes and other multiplexes around town that are in our single family zone now. And that is because there used to be more of a multi-unit zone throughout our older town. So those were the considerations that were being made when that new zoning was being developed. Any questions about zoning? Any questions about zoning?
Well, I'm concerned that, if you're putting these residential zones north of Brooks, I know too, I mean, you're just putting more people on the roads, like if there is that's huge, the Gray Fire, trying to get out of those places. And then there's only the one little park up there. I mean, if anybody lives up there, they have to get in a car to go anywhere. It's just, there's no trails, not really.
So you're talking off Brooks? Was that what you
north of Brooks, or north of 902, so it'd be up the Nike side.
Deep.
Oh.
Just up in the north end of town. I mean,
So we're talking about
residential.
increasing residences north of Fox Hollow and
Yeah,
and then off Brooks. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I know the county's going more to like a multi-use, so you have to have parks and you have to have trail systems
Mm-hmm.
for these sort of areas, and that looking at Fox Hollow, it just looks like they're just gonna pack more houses in there, and the last person wanted to just pack houses south of town too.
So when it comes to connectivity for transportation, so when that area starts to develop, the city is going to require a road that connects to Brooks, right, north of where the train, because there's really no other option. We cannot continue to have homes with one way in and one way out, essentially. So we need a second way in and out. When it comes to parks, that's something that I'm still working on for our comp plan. Looking at requiring or having the goal of a park within a quarter mile of all residences, right? So for the park master plan, there was a map in there that showed the areas of town that we didn't have that. And then if we expand, of course, need to be added. So that will be looked at with any new development in those areas, getting those parks there. And I will work on making that more clear in the comprehensive plan language.
So as far as like park density and stuff like that, if a developer doesn't, I guess that's always going to happen, buying a large chunk of property and then they're going to plat it out. And then at that point, then they'll have to designate, like, if we have park language in there, designate where the park is. But if, I just want to make sure that, I guess mostly it was a question, if for some reason it gets subdivided into smaller chunks and then like different developers are doing different parts, how do we dictate who has to put in the park and who doesn't have to put in the park?
Yeah. So for instance, right now, what we have north of town is a single property owner, right? But there are in that urban growth area, maybe 4 to 6 parcels. So that property owner could sell them all separately. And then when the development comes in at subdivision stage, at land division stage, even though you pay your impact fees at building permit, they can offset that fee by providing a park. So that is incentive for them because it's cheaper for them to give land because they already own the parcel.
Right.
And then, those improvements and there's a calculation for all this, the value, which we will be putting in the impact fee calculations and methodology. The other thing is if our comp plan says this is an area that needs a park, then we can also get that in there. And if it's, if the park is not equal to the impact fees of that particular development, well, the city can work in conjunction with that developer, right, to develop that park. So we have options as long as we have in our comprehensive plan and in our impact fee language that this is what we want. So it's really important.
Sweet.
Any other questions or thoughts on the draft? I have one. So you have something else to add to it?
More, don't you?
We're almost finished.
Well, we have a steering committee that has been looking over the periodic update process. And so this draft was presented to our steering committee and they had 2 significant requests. And one is more emphasis on economic development. So right now it's embedded mostly in the placemaking chapter. And they are asking to potentially have an economic development chapter on its own. So we are working towards that. Yeah. The second is, they said, there's a lot of goals and there's a lot of action items. And what we would really like to see is an action plan. So what we've been working on is getting an actual action plan for this document. So not only will we have goals that can lead policy, but we have action items that can lead staff and elected officials and the planning commission, like where we're at, and we can measure how we're doing in accomplishing our goal. So those are a couple of things that we're working on, and I will get you an updated draft before the packet comes out for the actual hearing, which is August 4th, I think. So we'll get that to you ahead of time. So you can have comment. It'll go back to steering committee also to get comment. But that's in process.
Anything else before I cut you short? Okay, we appreciate that and happy. I love the idea of having a chapter on economic development. I think that's great. And hopefully the action items are a nudge in the directive. So anyway, okay, so moving on. Action items, speaking of action, consent agenda. Council approval of the June 10, 2026 strategic planning retreat and the June 16, 2026 minutes. Being on page 90. I'll take them one at a time. So approval of the June 10 strategic planning retreat minutes. Any changes or additions? Entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Motion and a second heard. Any comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain, I wasn't there.
Thank you. Abstention from Councilmember Spears, he was not present. And then June 16, 2026 city council meeting minutes.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? All in favor? You said aye and opposed. Okay. Right. Approval of the July 7th claims and warrant 2026 claim warrants numbered 53844 through 53891 in the amount of $755,906.88. This council had opportunity to review claims and warrants.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
I think-
Could I just ask about the Dorsch and Call or Pale? Could I just ask what that was?
That was the, it's the payout for the generators.
Oh.
And it was largely FEMA money.
FEMA, yeah, okay.
Thank you for asking. Any other questions?
Yeah,
on
let's
claim
be
and
cool.
warrant?
I couldn't figure out who it was. Sorry, it's like, yep.
Usually electrical when anything related goes through them. So I have a contractor for that. Thank you though. Any other questions then? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. The public hearing then, we do have the staff report that was added after the fact. And I do want to say that if the fire department looks like they've heard all of the exciting business that they can absorb for one evening, I will take no offense if you have other business. You're welcome to stay, but feel free to go. Okay. Same with everyone in the audience. Those chairs have a time backside limit ratio that just must be observed. So staff report then, briefing sheet that was added. And we're going to pause for anyone who needs to go and tend to important business.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think the insurance
Thank you.
too, like increase insurance. It's very important.
Thank you so much. Okay, Ms. Rodriguez, transportation, periodic update, medical aid medical aid municipal code. You can tell my history stuck in there. Transportation. No open hearing, opening the public hearing. I don't have Tom here to keep me straight. I see your little picture up there. Opening the hearing at 8:23.
Okay, so briefing sheet on page 117. This is our third time discussing transportation related amendments. The fifth step in the sixth process. Once again, we're discussing parking, commute trip reduction plan, and concurrency. The Planning Commission held a hearing on June 25th and voted unanimously to recommend approval of the proposed amendments. As the mayor said, the staff report was omitted from the packet, but you have that in front of you. The report contains the language that was reviewed by the Planning Commission, the findings of fact for the approval criteria that you adopted back in February. And to summarize, the amendments were found to be consistent with the comprehensive plan, other adopted city plans, and the Growth Management Act. The proposal will not adversely affect the ability to provide city services in a cost-effective manner and will benefit the city in the long term. So you have the ordinance starting on page 118. The items are in numerical order according to our code, so it gets a little choppy. Sorry. I
was like, I can't do it.
I know during review, it seems like a hassle, but for implementation, it is nice to have everything in there.
Was the Kobe still talking about this?
Yeah, no, it's not broken up for subjects. So you will find new chapter 2.90 for the commute trip reduction plan. This is moved out of Title 16. So I've mentioned before that as the planner, my responsible titles are 15, 16, 17, 18, and now 19. And I am trying to get rid of everything except for 19. So slowly chipping away at these titles. So the CTR plan is really meant for the city's employees and policies rather than development standards. And that's why we've taken it out of 16, and then instead of going to 19, it's going to Title 2, where you have other policies regarding employees. Concurrency, which is, this is a weird word, I'll just remind you, concurrency is making sure that infrastructure is built at the same time development is constructed. And that we had a single chapter in Title 16, and now we have 3 new chapters. We have the one in Title 19, which is for process and how it relates to development. And then we're adding one in Title 11, streets and sidewalks, and Title 12, water and sewers, which lays out the role of the public works director and directs him back to level of service in a comprehensive plan. And finally, replacing off-street parking in Title 17 with a new chapter in Title 19. As discussed before, this chapter attempts to align vehicle and bicycle parking with the use categories established in the new zoning districts of Ordinance 1144. And at our previous workshop, when we discussed this language, Lance asked for a definition for paving. So I didn't add an actual definition, but if you look in sections 19.650, 050, and 060, which are residential parking standards and non-residential parking standards, you will see that there is additional information for clarification on what paving is. And I made those a little different because the state is mandating for residential, just like the parking space size. It's mandating things for residential. It's not mandating for commercial. So I'm keeping the commercial, generally speaking, more static than all the options for residential. Okay. Anything else? Okay, questions then from council while we're still in the
Just on the clarification on the paved surface. So you have acceptable materials. Sorry, this is on 131. It is C, and then 2 has acceptable materials, and you have D on there. So reinforced turf systems, which includes grass block and geocell grid systems. But under unacceptable materials, you have loose gravel, crushed rock, or untreated soil without a stabilizer, binder, or grid system. So that you can have all of those with the grid system, not just turf with a grid system. Because so in D, it just says a reinforced turf system. So is that a
I see what you're saying.
type of system?
Yeah.
They call them reinforced turf systems, or just because I've seen those where like you do the turf grids, but you have to put grass in it, which I'm not opposed to, except for when your son is driving a 30-year-old vehicle and he just keeps killing it with oil or whatever.
So I can research it, but I have not seen a grid system that is just with gravel or soil. You always have the turf because otherwise like the cells empty out.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as far as I know, you can only do it with turf.
With this, and that's what they're calling the stabilizing binder. Okay.
Or grid system.
You could have like permeable. gravel.
But you can
concrete,
still do the
stabilized.
concrete, the brick or the stone pavers and it as an
Yeah.
option.
Yeah, and they have the concrete brick or stone pavers, so, yeah.
And it's permeable or impermeable concrete or asphalt.
Yeah, I was just trying to get more permeable options,
Oh, permeable, yeah. I see.
Mm.
so less water shedding, more less stormwater.
Yeah, more spread.
Okay. Cool. No, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, anything else from council? And then public comment is also heard during the public hearing, correct? So, in the room or online, any comment then? On the transportation. Going once, going twice, by raising a hand. All right, hearing none, then we'll close, the hearing at 8:30.
May I interject an
Yes.
item regarding the ordinance and voting? Because it's an ordinance, unlike other agenda items, we're required to have majority of city council, not just majority of who's present. So just for your information,
Correct.
voting on the first read, this ordinance and any other ordinance tonight, because we only have 5 members. It does not pass with 3, it only passes with 4.
And there were, I was just looking at the page that talked about the option 1, 2, and 3. It will take a vote. It would have to be at least 4 votes to pass. They were the votes to pass. So this is something else. I guess if it doesn't pass, then it dies, and that's that, and to live for another day. But anyway, we've closed the public comment for both and council. Hearing nothing else, then I will entertain a motion for the first reading of ordinance 1149, and I may have our council read that title into the record, please.
Yep, thank you, Mayor. City of Medical Lake, Spokane County, Washington, ordinance number 1149. An ordinance of the City of Medical Lake, Washington relating to amendments to titles 2, 11, 12, 15, 16, 17, and 19 of the Medical Lake Municipal Code regarding parking, concurrency, private streets, planned unit developments, and the commute trip reduction plan.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
I would move to approve ordinance 1149
Second. First read.
For first read.
for first read. Thank you very much.
Second.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Have a motion in a second. Any further comment then on the first reading of ordinance 1149? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, so first read passes. They'll come back to second read and subsequent council meeting. So thank you so much.
Very well done. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. No executive session. Hooray. Resolutions 26815, the 6-year PLT update of the city workshop. And Sonny, if you want to give us a brief on where we are, then we'll move through these.
My pleasure. So it's found on page 139 of your packet. It's a resolution approving the updated 2027 to 2032 6-year transportation improvement program, also known as DIP. DIP serves as the city's required long-range transportation planning document. It identifies priority transportation projects, anticipates funding sources, implementation timelines, updated program lines with the transportation master plan that's under consideration. And it emphasizes safety improvements, multimodal transportation investments, corridor and intersection functionality, pavement preservation, and project development to enhance grant competitiveness and support Medical Lake's long-term transportation needs. We did have a public hearing at the previous meeting. No new comments or inputs were provided, so it is as was presented.
Any questions, council? Anything?
We don't have to follow this. This is just a plan.
It's just a plan.
Okay.
Just like your own personal budget at home.
The plan.
Councilmember Ray Abbott.
Yes, thank you. So it says that it needs to remain consistent with the comprehensive plan. So we're still looking at the comprehensive plan. So, but we're gonna approve this. But it's all,
So we do have an existing approved comprehensive plan that this complies with. And then similarly, we know that the good work that's been happening for the updated comprehensive plan, the periodic update. And so we looked at both to make sure that there was no compliance issues.
That's the way stuff. That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good question.
Yep.
What I like about this is that we are transitioning from a project by project transportation improvement plan to a strategic program-based approach as we go along with our capital improvement plan. All the other plans, we love our plans. And and trying to create that consistency and that common thread that everything has a plan, everything has a funding stream, everything has a purpose. So anything else from council on that? I would entertain that motion on resolution 26815.
I'll move to approve resolution 26815, the 6-year tip update.
Second.
Thank you. Motion and second before us. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed unanimously with council present, council members that are present. Moving on to resolution 26817, city council endorsement of the STA proposition 1. Turning to page 159. Sonny, if you want to bring us quickly up to speed, we know.
Page
Last time.
144, apologize for the
144,
page
correction.
numbers, yep, email.
Which I,
So 26817, city council endorsement of STA Prop 1. This agenda item considers adoption of a resolution supporting Spokane Transit Authority's Proposition 1, which would reauthorize the existing 0.2% local sales tax that supports local public transit services in Spokane County. The measure does not increase the current tax rate, but it would extend funding through 2048 to help maintain those existing transit routes and service levels and paratransit operations and future transportation investments. And it would, the resolution would express the city's recognition of the importance of public transportation for Medic Lake residents and businesses and encourage informed voter participation in the August 4th, 2026 election. So this doesn't determine the outcome, but it's just the endorsement. You had the presentation from STA staff and it's before you for consideration for council endorsement in accordance with the policies and procedures.
thank you. Any discussion about this? I know we workshopped it, we talked about it, and so. Mr. Scripps.
I will. I'll just plug it one more time. I wholeheartedly endorse the proposition. In addition to everything that was mentioned, it also ensures that we can still receive state grants. State law says that if the voters ever decide to reduce the sales tax amount by any amount for any period of time, that or any permanent period, that we no longer qualify for state grants. So we will lose about $82 million in state grants. That's the Youth Ride Free. That's also some of the money that we use for paratransit services, ride shares, and then it could also put our federal funds in jeopardy. The $85 million for Spokane BRT, and then other federal projects in the future.
I think with our own transportation improvement plan, not passing this also is a threat to the services that we have. We're also are one of the lowest riderships in the county. I'll keep saying it. We want to look for more grant funding on how do we connect ourselves to each other and working together with Cheney and Airway Heights. Like, how do we come up with a large transportation plan that STA could use that as matching funds, because they said West Plains is one of their priorities. So anyway, I personally support it as well, just as a continuance of an existing 0.2%. But happy to hear from any other comments. If there aren't any other, entertain a motion.
Now I'll entertain a motion to move forward with 26,817.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving on then, motion passes unanimously. All the members present, thank you so much, and thank you, Lance, for representing so well then. Resolution 26,820, see Councilmember Spears. Resolution 26,820, lease agreement amendment with Martinez Rail. We did receive one public comment, and I did mention that earlier in opposition to that renewal. And then I think that we may have had some other, I don't know if they had any other public comments on that other than the one.
Yeah, Ms. Nichols provided comment earlier
Yeah.
as well, but the one written comment, yeah, thanks for mentioning that, was also received.
Yes, so thank you. If you want to kind of give us a brief on where we are with our train.
My pleasure. Yep, this is a resolution authorizing amendment to the original residential lease agreement with Martinez Rail, the city-owned property at 316 West Brooks. The amendment extends the existing lease agreement through June 3rd, 2027 on a month-to-month basis. The party has expressed interest in being done at the end of this month, but we didn't want to have to bring back if something were to happen. So we drafted it as month-to-month for 12 months, but their intent is to vacate the premises by the end of July. And the original agreement, if you recall, was an 8-month agreement that was to end in February of this year. And then council's was wise enough to say, well, just in case, let's give them month to month up to June. And so we did that, but they've weren't quite wrapped up and just needed to extend the lease agreement. Let's see, this amendment allows the city to continue receiving the rental revenue while maintaining flexibility for future use of the property, with all other lease terms remaining unchanged. Martinez plans, like I said, to vacate the property end of July. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
I would make a comment. So a couple of comments from the public are, unsightliness of the property as they have things kind of staged up there. So just for some clarity, they're finishing up the project. They're having things on pallets. They're getting ready to move out. Ecology there was a complaint. Ecology did come and take a peek under the tarp and see what's there and found that, basically it's stakes and things that are not an ecology risk. So just so you know that happened. I drove by it today. There's things packaged up. I will note that when we took ownership of the property, we had 6 weeks of continuous dumpsters moving in and out of that property just to clean it up. So I think that neighborhood got used to sort of blurring their vision to the unsightliness of the way that it looked before. And it actually is an improvement. So every building was full of trash. There was trash everywhere, all over the property and inside the house too. So we've done a lot of work there. Martinez has been a good tenant. They've done some cleanup on the inside, and what they're seeing are those some tarps and pallets and things as they're getting ready to move out. And it's temporary. It's not permanent. We won't have that as a permanent problem. But we were in partnership with them while they worked on our railroad and improve those crossings. And so anyway, just to say that that's the couple of the facts, just to clear that up a little bit in case you heard something otherwise. So any questions or concerns about that? So
I would feel more comfortable if the agreement period was shorter, even 4 months. If their intent is to move out by the end of the month, give them 3 months after that, just to kind of show that people aren't going to read it. People are going to talk about it. So if we have a short period, it's just for them to move out, right? I think I would feel a lot better about having a shorter period, like 4 months. That still gives us a huge oopsie window.
we can make it through the end of the year. That's about 5 months. This is July. July, August, September, November. So I don't. But you can propose a date that you're comfortable with for consideration.
I don't know how anybody else feels.
Any other comment or discussion from council about?
It's toward the end of the year. to the end of the year.
Yeah, I would support to the end of the year. They haven't been bad tenants. I can understand people's disgruntledness with their, because they're not settled, residents in the traditional sense, but they are renters. And they are a business, but they've been a very respectful business. And having him located in a residency, and as far as I know, they've maintained the noise requirements that are within city code. They've maintained the property. I personally have not heard any direct complaints from or seen anything unsightly at the property, just activity. So I'm going to extend that to the year.
Any other council members want to comment to that end?
I don't think you can change their lease.
Yeah.
I mean, it is the way that it is.
I didn't hear you. I'm
I
sorry.
think the lease is binding through the end of the year, right?
No, the lease is
So no,
expired.
it's already expired,
It's
actually.
expired,
There's
yeah.
month-
This would
it
be
was
retroactive.
Oh.
26.
Well, then why aren't we just going month to month from here on out?
We did, and that's exactly what's happening, but it's here on out with a limit of a year, June of 27. Council is thinking maybe by December 31 is a couple comments, so.
I agree with you.
So,
Those people.
any,
I think that's reasonable.
I think it's
okay,
reasonable.
I'd entertain a motion then to whatever your pleasure, council.
I think entertain the motion to extend that to the end of the year.
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion about that? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, we'll take that as unanimous from the member present. And if things change, we can always bring it back, but that gets us to the end of the year, so. Thank you, council, for your consideration. Resolution 26-822, Healing Water Strategic Plan Update, page 150.
821 first, Gordon
Oh,
Thomas.
did I already pass one up?
Yeah.
Sorry, my check marks got ahead of me. I'm leaving on vacation tomorrow morning at 7.
You're already there.
I'm gonna be out the door. Resolution 26-821. This is a service agreement with Gordon Thomas Honeywell, Government Relations. This is our state representative who's lobbyist. He's been helping us on page 151. It's an extension of the same terms. The only did change that I know of sending things quickly on it too was they took out the federal piece because we are now working with the federal lobbyist, and that was the only thing that's changed. But go ahead, Sunny, if you want to add anything more.
No, it's well stated. This agreement providing ongoing support for our legislative engagement and policy tracking and grant capital funding opportunities and advancement of our strategic priorities of the state. Substantially similar to the existing agreement, would just ensure continuity in advocacy efforts and funding partnerships that support our infrastructure and parks and disaster recovery initiatives.
And this is who went with us last year to,
Yes, Emily Shea.
yep,
Mhm.
she's great.
She's great and been very proactive. We've met with her. She was just here in Medical Lake, and she just continues to work hard for us. And I would say we've seen the results of having them. So,
Vote to approve.
I'll second.
any further discussion there? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you, council. It's unanimous of council members present. Now we'll move on to 26-822. Healing Water Strategic Plan Update, page 159.
And as you're aware, this is a resolution approving the updated Healing Water Strategic Plan. The annual update affirms the city's vision, mission, and values and strategic priorities while refining the goals and objectives to reflect community needs and organizational capacity. And the strategic plan serves as our primary framework for aligning policy direction and departmental work plans and budgeting and capital investments and performance measurement to support the long-term community success. Just the glue that holds all those plans together. And it's, these updates based on many of the inputs that you have provided over the last year and a half.
Vote to approve.
Thank you so much, and I want to thank you again, council, for your work when we met to go over this. So we have a first, or a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Other than thanks for all your great input and for taking the time to have the retreat and for Sunny's leadership on that. You did a fantastic job of putting that together. So thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? All right. That says unanimously. Council members who are present. Last, there is 26/8/23, the surplus of certain items, page 176.
And this is a resolution declaring certain obsolete and unused city equipment as surplus, which authorizes us to dispose of that, get it out of our garages and into somewhere more useful. In the most cost-effective manner, the items proposed for surplus include an aging Caterpillar generator that's been replaced through the FEMA-funded emergency power project, and a 1999 Ford Explorer that has been out of service for about a decade. The action is consistent with the city's asset management policy, and it supports the efficient management of city-owned assets. So in order for us to liquidate or dispose of them, we need to put them in surplus status, and that's what we're asking for your approval of tonight.
Move to approve.
Dr. Wilbur, did you have a question first?
I did real quick, sorry.
Okay.
What's once that does get put into the proper surplus status, where does that go, and where does that money come back to the city, or how does this work?
Great question. So it will go into, there's the opportunity for us in government to government transfers, so we can seek somebody who may be interested in those goods. There's auction services as well that often will take that. And so, yeah, in this scenario, and then anything that is sold, if we're using it through an auction service, they're going to be taking a portion of those proceeds, but the majority will come back to the city.
Okay, are we traditionally using one service or another, or how does it generally work? Have we not done this before?
Also, great question. And my experience with the city is that it has been a very long time, at least a decade, since we have considered surplusing any items, possibly more. And so, yeah, this will be a newer process. But what I can say is, as far as the generator goes, that there are likely going to be some interested parties. This was a generator that was a backup generator for a wellhead. And there are a number of water districts that are looking for similar things. And this could be a benefit to a partner agency, as well as something that takes it off our hands and puts some money in the coffers.
Okay, one more question, follow-up question to that. Well, this money that we would be recouping from this equipment, what fund would that go into for the city?
That is also a great question, and I don't have an answer at this moment. But I would, what I would anticipate is that that resource is coming from Public Works, and so these dollars would go back into a Public Works fund.
And I would like to make that assumption, but I'd like that in writing as well. That
We can bring that back as a report as to how it's sold and how much it was. So we can give you staff reports on that, and then, yeah.
Yeah, and as far as, this is just to move it into surplus as far as the
step
what
one.
else?
If
what
this is
follows.
just step one going into surplus, okay. I just want to make sure that's as far as we're going right now. So not going over approve and suddenly it's gone, money's going somewhere else, and we're like, what happened? So
Understood.
perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
So we
Please.
have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Passes unanimously. Ordinance, we had the public hearing already. And so we're gonna move on to reconsideration of ordinance 1147 concerning the specialized housing. I'm gonna turn to page 181. We also did ask council to answer some questions that we had when we left. And so Lisa, if you want to kind of remind us where we left off, and then we'll hear from our attorney.
So at the last meeting, you considered the first read of ordinance 1147. The first read did not pass. After the vote, discussion revealed that not all council members were clear on how these regulations related to state law. I'll reiterate, the state law says we must allow all of these housing types. You can choose not to adopt any regulations, And if we are faced with a proposal for any of these housing types, we will have no control over how they're developed. However, state law has given us permission to adopt limited control of how these housing types would be developed, and that's what Ordinance 1147 contains. At the last meeting, as the mayor said, you requested some comment from legal, so I will turn it over to Tom.
Yeah, thank you, Liza, and thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to discuss this with you. And I agree with everything that she just said and everything that she said to this point. You know, for proponents of House Bill 2266, sort of the mechanism that's bringing about these requirements, it's a well-crafted law. It's specifically designed to protect against restrictions and more restrictive language than is promulgated in the law. I agree with Eliza there that the ordinance as written provides some sort of control versus just abiding and adopting the state standards completely. I believe when the meeting, one of the things I wrote down was a question about what would non-compliance look like with these requirements. And first off, I would agree that, you know, it's always my advice to follow the law and the way that it's written and to follow the people who interpret the law, and that's their job to do so. And I think Eliza is doing a really good job of that, and following her guidance would be my recommendation at this point. But in terms of what non-compliance would look like, so as you guys are all well aware, the requirements are these protections or so-called protections for transitional housing emergency shelters needs to be in place by 2028 or when the next comprehensive plan is installed by the municipality. And Eliza mentioned it earlier, sort of on a different topic, but the comprehensive plans are reviewed by the state. And if the state determines that the comprehensive plan does not abide by the Growth Management Act, which sort of encompasses in House Bill 2266's requirements, that can lead to potential sanctions from the state, which would likely be sort of withholding of taxes like alcohol excise tax, alcohol sales tax, other sales tax as well. So there's the sanctions potential there, but the state, to my understanding, if they review a comprehensive plan and they don't feel like it abides by the rules and regulations, they just say, hey, bring us back something that works. You can challenge Growth Management Act decisions and authority. You essentially appeal it to a 3-person panel that's comprised of people from the region. I think there's 4 regions in the state of Washington. We would fall in the eastern one. So you can bring challenges, but that's a long process, and it would be a pretty extensive appeal process and take a lot of time. The other way non-compliance could come into play, let's say the comprehensive plan is determined to adhere to all the laws and requirements from the state, but someone submits a permit, city council in the city denies that permit on basis that violates House Bill 226's requirements, the Growth Management Act, et cetera. I don't think it would trigger an alarm where the state or some enforcement body would come in that day and say, you know, comply with this right now, or you're in trouble, or you're facing sanctions. That would be like a lawsuit legal process where the permit applicant would, you know, bring suit against the city, you know, on their own through their own attorneys. And as I'm sure you guys are well aware, the state attorney general for Washington is got a very big policy on sort of consumer protection and helping what they consider to be the disenfranchised. So if someone feels like the city is violating those laws, they would have the opportunity or the wherewithal. They would get support in all likelihood from the attorney general's office as to compliance and legal support. But if that did occur, it would likely lead to a lawsuit where the city would be sued against the permit applicant. It would probably be sort of like a injunction type legal theory where they would go to a judge and say, hey, the city is blocking our permit here. It's in violation of the law. You know, there's enough evidence probably on both sides to make a legal argument as to and meaning both sides could theoretically win the case, but you know, I'm being prejudiced and harmed from not being allowed to bring in this transitional housing. That could lead to potential attorney's fees against the city. And then, you know, if eventually down the line it's determined by a court of law that the city sort of knowingly denied the permit, knowing it would be in violation of the state requirements, that could also lead to attorney's fees against the city because the court would go, hey, you guys were aware that this violated the law and you decided to decline the permit anyways. That could lead to some hefty attorney's fees. In terms of House Bill 2266 financial penalties, I'm not aware of any under that law, but I think the sanctions come into play through sort of the connection with the Growth Management Act. And you know, in reviewing the requirements of House Bill 2266 in terms of how these places can be implemented, you know, I would just say there's things that the city can utilize to sort of potentially bridge the gap for a facility and in the community and sort of coming to an understanding. These applicants need to hold community meetings, as I'm sure you guys are well aware, before the can open a facility that, you know, falls under transitional housing emergency shelters. And, you know, I believe it needs to be at least two. In the community meetings, you have to have the similar notice requirements of a public hearing, but they're not there's no decisions necessarily being made. It's more of an open dialogue where the permit applicant can speak to the community. And in all likelihood, a community meeting like that in this situation probably would lead to a lot of public participation. Some of it would be, you know, vehemently against, you know, that permit applicant being able to do what they're proposing. And that would allow for some constructive feedback to the permit applicant, while also them being able to address any concerns that the community has at large about what's being implemented, their history, their experience, etc. And then also, you know, as part of the law or the requirements for these permit holders, they have to have points of contact who are reachable 24/7, who are decision makers for that facility, who can make legally binding decisions. And then there can also be sort of requirements to look into the makeup of the facility in terms of employees, their history. They also have to be licensed appropriately with the state. And, you know, I think if there's that sort of open dialogue through a community meeting, there's the ability for the city to work directly with the permit applicant and, you know, just say, hey, here's some of the issues our community is having, or with the idea, you know, maybe we can come to an agreement and work together to reach a solution that sort of quells those concerns while still adhering to the law as well. And I believe Eliza's gone over this as well, but there are some mechanisms where the city, through donations or sort of joining a partnership with a permit facility, can have a little more control than versus, you know, no donation or no partnership involvement. So I think the incentive from the people who drafted House Bill 2266 is, yeah, if you want some control as a municipality, you know, you're going to have to donate some land or donate some funding towards the facility. And I believe there's some lease requirements as well. But, that's a way to get more control than the law allows specifically without that donation. And then same with the partnership. Um, you partner up with an entity, and I think the idea behind that is the city shares some of the potential liability, which may be good to the permit holder and allows the city to have some more say. But there's some downsides for the city to become involved in that, not just from like a worst case scenario sort of public health situation, but if there's a slip and fall on the property, or something sort of a minor facilities like injury, the city could still be liable for something along those lines. So in terms of more restrictive language being able to be utilized against, say, like a religious entity that's looking to um provide some areas for the unhoused with in terms of tents, I'm not aware of any legal recourse the city would have to pare down the language as presented in terms of making it more restrictive. But I think if the community and the city is willing to engage with these potential permit applicants, I think that can lead to a lot more understanding between the community and what's trying to be installed, and may incentivize the permit holder to really hear what the community's saying and sort of go above and beyond what's required from the law to sort of quell any public concern there. So, and I also want to reiterate, this law, the House bill just passed this spring and summer. So you're not really seeing any court decisions or strategies being implemented. But I mean, like, I'll just give an example. The city of Des Moines used to have a requirement that for temporary or transitional housing emergency shelters, there couldn't be one within 1,000 feet of the school, or there couldn't be two within 1,000 feet of each other. Something like that, that's not going to be allowed under the law moving forward. So the recourse in terms of more restrictive language on this issue, at this point, I'm not seeing any ability beyond what Eliza has proposed at this point. Okay. And that could change. It wouldn't surprise me if lobbyist groups and entities like Association of Washington Cities or other insurance risk pools look into legal challenges to laws like this in the future. But at this point, I think compliance with the law, albeit it may not be everyone's desire, is the only way forward at this point. And I agree with Elisa that implementing this ordinance as it's written provides the city a little more control over the process than it would be if it just blanketly has to adopt what the state has provided. So I know I was talking there for a while. I'm happy to address any questions to the best of my ability that you guys may have. But in terms of legal resource challenging it at this point, there's not a lot of options that I'm aware of. That could change as the years go on, and there's potentially challenges to this law and the GMA in general. But for now, that's all I'm seeing.
Thank you so much. Any questions from council? I have a couple thoughts, but any questions
For him.
for the lawyer? Yeah.
Yes, sir. I thought that one of the things you were going to do was to contact some of the other small cities and look at how they're trying to protect themselves in the
Sure.
ordinance.
Yeah, and I have looked into what other cities have done, and it's kind of I've spoken to the city of Hatton, which I do some attorney work, which is a lot smaller. But this, again, it's a new law, a new set of circumstances. So I'm not really seeing any challenges out there that have standing in terms of other small cities protecting themselves. They have to adhere to the law, and in talking to city planners, from Hatton, and just some of my colleagues in the industry, there isn't any way forward to protect what you're trying to protect at this point. It's just strict adherence to the law, or potentially face challenges in the court system or sanctions from the state.
Okay, so would it be reasonable to expect, and I'm not talking about the emergency housing or the transition housing, and like I said in the last meeting, it's the STE in step, not the P. So I'm talking about more like the safe parking, which allows somebody to park their car and live out of it on a street that is designated, but it's not designated yet. Tent cities and encampments. Those are very different than having a POC for a emergency shelter. Would it be reasonable for us to add into our ordinance that they have to obey all the ordinances and the laws of our city? So while they're waiting or not filling out their permit to do one of these, we have that to say, hey, there's no loitering. Did we get that answer?
So you can, I'll let the lawyer answer it, but we already, don't allow camping. We don't allow, parking in certain areas. So all those already exist. And Tom, if I'm correct, I remember we talked about what this does, because it puts the language in there that says, if somebody wants to create this space, we're going to have public hearings, we're going to have public comment. We're going to craft a memo of understanding that says, and this is only when and if, not that it will happen, but that, they're going to comply with all the rules and laws, sanitation, that they have to provide all of those things. They can't just say, yeah, come and set up a tent and we're going to let you live here. So they'll enter into an MOU with us, and we can put some rules and times and things in there. If we do not pass this, we have less control than if we do pass this. And I think that's the message, and that we're limited on what we can prohibit when it comes to the emergency housing. So we need to craft a way that we allow it and control it. And if I'm hearing our lawyer right, this gives us the most control as allowed by state law currently.
Yeah.
Is what I heard. Sorry. Go ahead.
Continue. Sorry.
What I heard was kind of what I heard when I was reading 2266, that it's a law, so we have to pass it. And I said that at the last meeting, we have to pass it because it is a Washington state law. But then to come here and ask us to vote on passing it, and if we don't, then we're threatened. And I'm like, that rubs me wrong.
I think the nuance is, I hear what you're saying. Correct me if I'm wrong. The nuance is that what we're passing is saying, yeah, we acknowledge that's the law, but we're going to require an MOU. We're going to require public hearing. We're going to require that and I'm opposed to entering into a partnership because I don't want to join in them in their activity, but I want to allow a permit and then require some compliance based on public input and our own concern about public safety, police, fire, sanitation, all of those things. And they'll have to make sure they provide those in order to be permitted to have this place.
And in the meantime, when they haven't requested a permit, it's not allowed. So we have that
recourse.
People can't just pull up and put a tent on the sidewalk out in front of City Hall and say, hey, this is an emergency. I live here now. I mean, that's just not allowed. So,
would it be possible to push it to the next meeting so we can have the other two people here?
So,
because,
yeah. So we have, there's 5 people and, and I hear what you're saying.
Is there 5?
Yeah.
There's 5.
And I don't know where that will land. But either way, if it fails, then we're stuck with the state law and we have no people.
This is a first read, right?
This is
Yeah, the first read of the ordinance.
reconsideration of ordinance 1147. Is this reconsideration of the first read, council?
Yes.
Okay. But if it fails, it doesn't go on, so. Yes, sir.
If I may, just to provide a little context as well, I really think hearing your concerns that you're not happy that the state legislature is forcing this issue on local jurisdictions. The answer to that is legislative advocacy. It is not in thwarting local controls through ordinances. This is a local law that gives us some bookends related to this. But I would just say that legislative advocacy through our work with AWC and Fort Thomas Honeywell to do that. Because what the local ordinance is attempting to accomplish is protections that are important to you to the greatest extent to which we can take them. And if we do not do that, then we are vulnerable because we have no local control. The local ordinance is to provide local control. If we decide not to do that, we are subject to the state law and state law only, and we have no local mechanisms to.
I do realize that, and I said that at the last meeting. I know we have to pass this, but to look on paper like this is a unanimous decision and that we fully accept it is something I am not willing to do. I don't like this. I think attacking it after the fact bothers me.
I can understand that as well, but what I hear you saying, and if I just to plainly state it, that what you want to do is deny our ability to locally control it and tell the state you don't like it. The state law is already the state law. And so telling a non-unanimous approval of local control is basically telling the state, we'd like you to control us more than we have the ability to control us.
No, that's not what you're hearing, Sonny. I mean, I have said over and over again that I realize we have to pass it. I just don't think it has to pass unanimously.
Yeah.
I am bothered by it, and I do know that we have to pass it. I do think that it's possible that we could. I'm gonna go back to my question from a minute ago. Do we have a no loitering law? I mean, I thought we were going to look into that from the last meeting.
I don't know right off the top of my head, but that's something that we can, so that's a separate issue, right? Because it would take us at least 2 reads of something to pass it if we didn't, which we can do.
Well, I was just hoping we did.
But even if we didn't, right? So even if we do, it's not going to change what we need to do here.
Right. I mean, and you can liken it to the fireworks where we banned it and then didn't have any power to do anything. Do you know what I'm saying? So I am just simply saying, is there room for us to put anything more in there? I mean, it doesn't have to go until 2028. So is it possible to look at that?
Yeah, we can look at anything, anytime. Any law can be changed at any time, but I hear you, I understand you, I appreciate it, and can fully understand and the frustration but we have to, as we found with the state legislature, it's tough, and we have got to join together and advocate together when we want to see something change. And we're not the only city that is concerned about this, and our collective voice and work that will happen in the future to amend and change this. But taking what little bit of control we can might be where we land. So I'm ready to take a motion, but anyway, Mr. Spears, you want to say something?
Yeah, and we don't have to approve this. Like, by no means we don't. If we don't approve it, then we just accept the state's control. So I'm worried the perception is going to be if we try to enact our own local controls and it's not unanimous, then the state's going to think that some of us were okay with them just dictating whatever they wanted. I'm worried that it might have the opposite effect, because the only way for us to exercise any level of control is to adopt our own ordinance. if we choose to not adopt an ordinance, that we choose to just by default take whatever the state has given us.
Okay. And just one more thing. And I think that I asked, because at the end of our meeting yesterday or last time, we talked about that we built in some protections, as many protections as we could. And I said, I don't think they were glaring to me because of course I read through it. So I don't think those were glaring to me. And I'm just wondering because nothing has changed in it. And so can we point those out? I mean, who decided that that's all we could put in?
So I put in everything we were allowed to put in. And I don't know if Tom reviewed that and agrees with that.
He did speak to that. If you want to repeat that, Tom, that he said, he did say that.
It's the requirements part. It's these three requirements.
Oh, but if I remember what page.
It's on page 7 of the deal. That's the part that
Okay,
says
this is
requirements.
only the religious organization piece, and this is only 2 of the 4 bills that passed. Because we did a lot of talking about House Bill 2266, but there are 3 other ones that also have allowances.
So those are state laws. And if you want to bring those forward as a council member to pass something that is an ordinance related to those that says, here's how we're going to manage that. We'll get some legal counsel on what we can do for protections within those. We can do that. So just like this one, this is one law 2266 that we addressed here.
No, they're
Right.
all 4 in this.
They're all for it, but this can be amended, is what I'm saying, that this, if it's allowed, but I hear what you're saying, and I think that we just need to take a vote, because everyone understands what you're saying. And if council, if no one wants to make a motion or a second, or another motion to bring it back or whatever, I think I'm ready as a chair to call for a motion, so.
A motion to continue would be acceptable.
Of course, yeah.
I move to approve ordinance 1147.
I'll second it.
We do have a motion and a second. Any more discussion on that?
So at this point, if it does not pass, it just fails, correct? There's no secondary motion of reconsideration. Can't
So,
reconsider again. What does Robert say?
So if council, if the motion fails, can another motion be made to bring it back?
I am not aware of an ability to bring it back. I believe it would just fail.
Why can't we push it until everyone's here?
We have a quorum. And we had a discussion last time.
You're strong arming me, Lance.
I'm sorry, I'm using the process. I want to move forward one way or the other.
Why? Why do you want to do it this one versus the next meeting? Knowing how I feel about it, knowing that I could stop it.
Because I don't know that you can stop it, and I don't.
If I vote no?
If you want to vote no, then you can vote no.
If you vote no, it's your conscience, and no, it is, and the outcome is whatever it is. It's okay. I guess we're gonna have to be okay with that.
Instead
If
of
you're
pushing
not
it to where we have everyone.
So
We'll have a second
but
read.
Now you're saying that you're for.
It can fail on the second read too.
No,
We have another read. We have a second read.
I thought that if it.
No, if it fails on
failed,
the
it
first
failed.
read, it doesn't come back.
Right, but if it passes on the first read, it can go to the second read and it can fail on the second read.
Correct.
That we've had all of our discussion.
In order for it to pass, it has to be a majority of the whole of council, which requires 4 favorable votes. Otherwise, it fails.
Including.
Correct.
We have 1, 2,
No,
3.
the mayor's not a
4,
voting
5.
member.
The mayor can't vote. So there's 5. And we have a motion and a second. So we have 2 council members who are wanting to move forward. If there's no further discussion outside of what we've already discussed. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so first passes with 4 votes. It's a nay from Councilmember Ray Abbott, and I appreciate your efforts. I do. and the comments, because I agree with many of them. So that will come back for a second read of the full council. No emergency ordinances, no upcoming agenda items noted. If you have any agenda items that you want to bring back, and Councilmember Ray Abbott, if you want to look at loitering and camping and some of those others, please send that to Sunny and we can bring that back as a workshop so we can be advised as to what is and is not allowed, right, in relation to these things that are important to all of us. And I think that was a good call. Thank you. So last opportunity then for interested citizen comment, online or in person. Mr. Colbert, come on down. You're the next contestant.
Art Coolibert, 405 Fellows. As I was reading through the package, it jogged my memory on a thing that dates back a few years. The school built their school buildings on land they don't have title to. Namely, the streets were never vacated.
That's right.
And when I asked the question a number of years ago, it's the responsibility of the school board to request the vacation. I think it's time that we kind of nudge them and, they're violating a couple RCWs by doing that. So that was
Thank
something
you.
I'd like. to
We've been having discussions about that, just so you know, it has not gone unnoticed, and has been, addressed, and yes, it's coming. It's coming. Thank you, though. And I always love your history. You never know what RCW we're reading in the middle of the night from, wherever, so. Appreciate your historical knowledge, I really do. Anything else then from citizens online or in the room? Online, raise your hand in the room, going once, twice, thrice.
Move to conclude.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any of them? We're all going home. Thank you so much.
Sunny, you get an update on the dog.
Meeting with them tomorrow.
An update